What's up, bikers? I'm Robert, and this is the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream. Oh, it's so fun to say that. Every week, it's so fun to say that. Here we are, episode 111. I can't believe I've done this 111 times. I can't believe how many shows I've started out talking about how many episodes it is and how I can't believe it, but it is what it is, right? So, versus tires today. If you guys haven't heard of them yet, you will after this episode, that's for sure. But before we get started with that, let's talk about some things that we always talk about. First of all, you guys, how many of you know what comes next? Is it Facebook or is it Instagram or is it Patreon? Which one are we talking about? How about this? If you know my Facebook or my Instagram, just go over there and give it a follow. That would be great at B1KER, because that makes me happy and I like that. If you like the show and you're listening to it on your YouTube, then hit subscribe and hit the thumbs up on the episode. And if you are listening to it on one of the podcast platforms and you want to write a review, that would be rad. It's really cool to go over there. I went over to the Apple site just the other day to look and see what was there, and nobody's written anything since like December. So one of you that are listening to this episode could be the person that writes one in January, and I'd be super stoked to read it. So I would appreciate that. In addition, we have a sponsor for today's show, the same as last week, and that is Ulster. And they make a fanny pack or a hip pack, or what, I don't know what's the cool way to say it now, but it's still a fanny pack to me. It's a hip pack if you're in the cool club, I guess. But they make one that's super rad. I cannot tell you how many that I've tried that I just don't like the way that they feel normally. They're usually too heavy. They sit like too high, and I got a beer belly, so I don't like you have to like have them like cinched up around the bottom of your like chest plate or something like that from the work right? And it doesn't work that way with the Ulster. It kind of hangs a little lower, and it has a buckle that's off to the left-hand side that I really like, because when you're pedaling, then the buckle doesn't like cut into your stomach as you're like kind of bent over on your bike. And it's 2 bottles. That's all it holds. 2 bottles. It's got some storage in it. The storage pockets have a lot of stretch to them, so they you can actually put a lot more in there than I thought. I just really wanted something to carry 2 bottles and maybe my wallet or my car keys or something like that, and it does that very well. So if you would like to get one, click the link and show more, and that'll help me out, and it'll I think there's a discount on it too, so you could go ahead and check that out. If not, just go look by their website. He also has like a tool roll and a wallet and some other things that he makes as well. But the hip pack is what I 100% endorse the hip pack. I've been using it for like probably 2 years at this point. I've gone through a couple of them. I really enjoy the product. So I wouldn't have him as a sponsor if I didn't like the stuff as much as I do. So go ahead and check that out. I would really appreciate that. And let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to bring Scott on from Versus Tires. And there's Scott. What's up, man?
Hi, how you guys doing? How you doing?
Good. Dude, super stoked to have you on the show. And glad that you took the time to hang out with us here on Sunday. So I know you got a family and stuff. So anyways, what's new with you, man?
I went to Monster Jam last night with my kid.
Oh, yeah? Who was playing?
Wait,
that's the one with the trucks. I was thinking that there's a concert like show too that's similarly named, but
no, he's 5, so monster trucks and Legos are his life.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, we went to see Gravedigger last night.
Yeah, dude, I was just gonna say, those guys, is there like a different driver or something? Because Gravedigger was around when I was a kid. Either that guy's like 70 still popping up on vehicles, or like is it just
see, I've learned about all this. I forgot his name. Right. And then there's a new driver. There's a couple new drivers because there's a couple grave diggers, but then his kid is son of a digger who was doing it last night too. So it's kind of,
oh wow.
Yeah. It's a whole brand. It's a whole, like, there's multiple trucks. They're also on the East Coast or something like that. So
yeah, I grew up on the East Coast. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. And I went to see them at like the fairgrounds when I was a kid. I was probably in like middle school or something. So I every time I talk to somebody about one of those shows, like the names of the trucks that they're talking about is like, I'm like, that's all the ones I remember. So somebody in the comments saying Gravedigger, the OG Gravedigger is 100 or 70 years old. So
Yeah,
That's
no, that was a big deal last night. He's 50 years old or 40th anniversary. So like we got t-shirts. My wife's like, no Gravedigger shirt. I'm like, no, it's sick.
yeah, right. That's super fun, man. So let's talk bikes, right? That's what we're here
Cool.
for, huh?
Yeah.
So tell me what's Versus Tires?
It's my tire company that I started. I mean, I started working on it in 2017, 2018, really, and then launched April. I mean, came to the public to anyone saw it on April 15th, 2020, and started selling May 1st, 2020. Right in time for COVID, like the
Yeah,
perfect time
you were like,
to
man,
launch anything you've been working on
right?
for years and like have tons of money into. Yeah, I nailed it.
So you were telling me before the show that that you have or at the time you had a brand new baby, and the only time that you could work on your stuff was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So this
Oh
kind of
like the logo, like all of the stuff that you see. My tire design was done from like 2 to 5 in the morning, and like I
yeah.
sent it off. I mean, he was born in January, and I sent it in January 2018 is when I sent my tire off to the factory. But yeah, it was fully designed at like midnight to 3 or 5 in the morning or whatever it is.
So what was like? I'm assuming you have a day job, or you had a day job at that point. That was something completely different. What made
Um,
you decide, or are you in the industry already, or?
So I do design and branding in mountain bikes and outdoor sports and action sports for like 20 years. So it's
Uh-huh.
not exactly it, but it's not far outside of it. Um, so this is my case study, basically calling favors, call all my friends, say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you help me? And yeah, like that's how I got to do it. Or that's how I was even able to do it because I had to pull strings and call in favors and stuff to be
Right,
able to
right.
not start
So
this with
so
a
you
couple
were doing
million.
like design and branding for all like just action sports in general, or mostly mountain biking, or?
Action sports in general. So
Uh-huh.
mountain bikes, I've done. I did some stuff for Alpine Stars, some stuff with Intense, Pink Bike, Vital,
Uh-huh.
Joystick, Noli bikes.
So you did
And
like
then
design for them, like logo design, or like kind
those
of
ones
like,
would have been mostly T-shirt designs. If you guys follow bikes, I did the
yeah.
Shadow Conspiracy logo, the
Uh-huh.
crow's head.
Uh-huh.
Who I'm super good friends with Ronnie Bonner, who's the owner, and that's
Uh-huh.
kind of how I was able to do this. But yeah, just design, snowboard graphics, t-shirt graphics,
Yeah, yeah.
logos, like created companies for people, helped other
Right.
brands redo their
Yeah.
thing to be more. Yeah.
Yeah. I went through a branding process for my day job. I do IT, and I went through that with one of the companies that I work for. It was like super interesting. It definitely like opened my eyes to a lot of things that most people don't think about,
Oh yeah. Because
and
everyone's like, oh, it's your logo, and you're like, dude, that's one part of the puzzle, right? Like, there's
yeah,
all of this that tells your story. Like,
yeah, and getting it to like all be together and to like kind of tell your story just from looking at it. It's an art, man. It definitely is. That was one
yeah,
of those things that for me, because I went through that process, like when I first started the biker channel, I was like, oh, I need to have all this stuff like dialed ahead of time. Just
it's it's so much easier to have at least it close at first rather than
yeah,
you start with like some friends of mine kind of started with a bad logo and now they're kind of stuck with the bad logo and they just got acquired and it's like, dude, your logo still sucks. Like it's not doesn't
yeah,
suck, but like I really wish like I could have helped you back then because you'd have a red
yeah,
logo now and like now you're stuck with it. But
yeah. Yeah, like when I first started, it was like, okay, well, I need to make sure I have a good logo, and I wanted this branding that people would recognize, So
mm,
like if they're just glimpsing over and they see something white and yellow, like they'd be like, oh, that's the biker, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
it was like, and I felt like at the beginning it was more important than it is now, at least with YouTube. But at the beginning, when you're trying to get noticed, if somebody saw one of your videos and they want to see another one, that brand recognition is really big, you know?
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Like
Yeah.
it's getting and it's establishing how you look and how you feel really because that's branding is more of a feeling
Yeah.
towards for people to like you said the quick visual like 1 second and you look at your logo and you're scrolling through it's like oh wait I saw one of his podcasts
Yeah.
and then like I'll check out another one because I like that last one so
Yeah. 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 And so, yeah, it's definitely, it's fun. I have like dabbled in graphic design for a long time. It's just like, I'm more like, I like designing things. You know what I
yeah
mean? And when I was younger, I did some web design stuff, and I think that kind of got me into learning how to make graphics and buttons and things like that I needed to for those things. But then later, whenever I learned how, I started learning about printing, it was like a whole new world. My buddy runs Stickered. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah.
And so whenever I first started like working with him, like I would make a design like that works for web, right? So like, to be blunt, you can Photoshop the shit out of stuff for web and get away with it, right?
Yeah.
Like you can just like, oh, just use a little eraser over here and like put a white background. Nobody would even be able to tell, but then you go to try to print something like that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I've had to. I mean, I used to help my friend. He used to own a screen printing shop, and I would kind of set T-shirts and get T-shirts ready for print. And I had to do a business card, a little tiny random drawing of a fish jumping out of a piece of pizza. And they're like, "Oh yeah, just use this." And it's like, dude, this thing's 1.5 by 1.5 inches, and you want a T-shirt? Like, it doesn't And I worked okay, but yeah, it's web it's so much lower. There's so much lower dots per inch, or so much lower resolution that you can get away with it. But once you start printing, like printing paper, dude, you need like full res, or it's gonna look terrible.
Yeah, so I had to like he would just like get so angry with me because I'd send him these designs and I'd be like, "Here, make me some stickers," and he'd be like, "Dude, I have to make this entire thing." He's like, "So if you want the hookup at the price like the buddy I already designed it buddy price, you need to send me this in Illustrator."
Yeah.
So I've been learning Illustrator over the last couple of years, and he's much happier now as a friend, but it's definitely opened my eyes to a bunch. So what part of like your background? So obviously you ride then too, right?
Yeah.
How long you been riding?
I mean, since I was a kid, right? And then I got my first mountain bike in like the late 90s, and then I met someone that worked at Cannondale, and they had a Super V4000, that crazy like mythical downhill bike.
Yeah.
And I beat the crap out of it. And then I was like, but the brakes are fading when I'm riding Mammoth. I'm like, I'm gonna replace the brakes. And I took it in the bike shop. They're like, "Do you have one of those?" Like, "No, you can't do anything to it. You should sell it." So I ended up selling it and bought a Trek Session 77 in 06, I think. And then kind of been going since then, like, a lot since then, like off and on. And then I got really into it, like in the, around 2010. And then up until I got hurt in 2016, like that was basically all I did. No,
what happened?
I do it when I can.
What happened? What was the injury?
Oh, I exploded my heel racing kamikaze games.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, don't do that.
That doesn't sound fun.
No, like I've had 3 surgeries. I'm gonna have another one, like 60 therapies. But at the same time, like I got lucky because the surgeon's up there. So I broke it at kamikaze games. And I called my wife.
Kamikaze games? I don't know what that is.
Oh, at Mammoth. Mammoth had a big kind of race a while ago.
Okay.
They just stopped it 2 years ago. So I called my wife. I'm like, "Yeah, I broke my foot or did something. We have to go to the hospital." So she shows up with like an ace bandage and ice. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, we're not doing this."
Yeah, we're
so
past
go to the hospital and they do the x-rays and MRI and everything like that. And they're like, "Okay, yeah, you broke your foot. It's really bad. Wait, we'll have a surgeon come in and talk to you." So waited for like 3 hours. And for the surgeon was doing another fib. And he comes in, he's like, "Yeah, this is super bad. Where do you live?" "We're San Diego." And he's like, "Okay, we got a guy for you," who turns out now he's Dr. Dahlstrom. He's the head of UCSD's foot and ankle department. But they're like, "Yeah, that's who you want to do it." So thankfully I'm like 95+%. So it's because this is like people cannot walk anymore. So pretty good. I just whine.
So you just took a digger, or like what?
I was following my friend Sean Swados. Actually, I showed him a little gap, and he's like, "I want to follow your line." I'm like, "Dude, you're way faster than me. Why are you following my line?" And I came into it weird and not fast enough, so my bike couldn't do the gyroscope. So it kept going sideways and kept going sideways and kept going sideways. And there was a huge tree like 5 feet in front of me. I'm like, I'm gonna high side and smash in that tree. So I tried to hop, and it just rolled my ankle. My doctor's like, you rolled your ankle so much momentum going forward, like your cuboid is kind of by your toes. He's like, you pushed your heel off and just it was bad.
That sucks. Was it like you could like it was like broke, like you needed to get like taken down on like a stretcher kind of thing?
I freaked out for like 10 minutes, and then I know Mammoth really well, so I was like, I know that I was right by a dirt road, so I scooted down on my butt More terrible story. Let's get on my butt. I'm like, I know where that road goes. So we're riding down to the car. I call my wife, and we're riding down the dirt road to the car. And there's like one rock that's like this big on the entire dirt road everywhere. And I somehow kicked it with my bad foot.
Oh no.
Yeah, like I was screaming, and like it was ski patrol in the winter, but whatever they have, ranger, whatever they are in the
Yeah,
summer.
yeah.
Like, oh, let me check your foot out. And I looked, and there's like, it looked like there was a sausage underneath my skin, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. There, yeah, you're going to the hospital. Like, I can't do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah.
So
You're not rubbing
yeah,
any beer on this one and calling it a day, dude.
yeah. Like at first I was like, oh, maybe I just sprained my ankle super bad, or like maybe I could wrap it up. And then I'm like, no.
Yeah,
As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, you're over. Like,
yeah, yeah. I've had a couple of like pretty shitty injuries. I did like a shoulder separation, and as soon as I hit the ground, I heard this like pop, and I knew
mhm.
instantly. I was like, "This is gonna be bad. This is
Yeah.
bad. You're not riding for a while, bud."
Yeah, I thought I blew a tendon or something because it rolled and then it popped and then it rolled more, and I was like, "Oh
Uh-huh.
no!" Like it's full slow motion, and then it's like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and that's what it was.
So you said that was 2016.
Yeah, like
So
September 16th, 2016.
so somewhere between 2016 and 2018, you come up with this idea that you want to make tires. How did that happen?
It was sitting on the couch on Vicodin watching Rampage, like whatever, a few weeks afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, why isn't anyone doing a YT of tires?" And like I wrote a couple people, and I legit forgot about it for months.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, "Oh wait, dude, I wanted to do bike tires." Like
Yeah.
I wrote the right people who said I could do it, and then I started it.
So you said the YT of tires. What do you mean by that?
Just like, why is no one doing a direct to consumer tire company, really? Because
Right.
that's my first idea, was to do a direct, and like,
Uh-huh.
and then now I'm a little bit more on the rider own part, but yeah, like why do we have to buy from these big brands that make airplane tires? Why can't people? Why can't you buy from a mountain biker that's making really good mountain biker tires?
Uh-huh. So how do you go from like sitting on the couch thinking about this to like making it happen? Like what was the first thing you said? You called some favors? Who'd you go to?
Yeah. So my friend, like Ronnie, who owns Shadow Conspiracy, I'm super good friends with him. So he's like he was a huge part of this anyways. Because I remember he was a super raspy voice. I remember talking to him at one interbike. He's like, yeah, just try to figure out the hardest thing there is to make, and then just make it. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, I said I was kind of looped, which is kind of weird because I did his Shadow Conspiracy Crow's Head logo when I broke my thumb.
Uh-huh.
And I was looped out. Like he called me and needed a logo in like 3 days. I'm like, dude, I had surgery 2 days ago. He's like, I can need it by Thursday. So apparently I have good ideas on that. But yeah, so I wrote him and I called his people, and did what I needed to do, and was able to get the ball rolling. And then kind of, I didn't have the name for a long time. The tire was our way at the factory, and samples were being produced where I figured out the versus name. But I kind of figured out what I thought would work for a tire, and did it like Illustrator, like I'm a designer. So I did a crazy Illustrator tech pack with like my drafting experience from high school, like 3D drawings of everything,
Uh-huh.
and then the sample came back and was exactly what I sent them. And then the sample tire came, and like they did a 3D print, and then they did the sample tire. I'm like, dude, this is what was in my head. So
So in your head, when you're thinking about a tread design, what is it that like what was it that like was your inspiration? Like
I mean, just
just
tires.
like
I thought, what would work, and then some different angle things, and like I have the accordion fold on the leading edge, which I was like, well, it could kind of mold with the terrain a little bit, and do some things, like with some, I did some stuff. I tried to have stuff stacked more in the middle of the tread design so it rolled faster, which is like everyone's first comment is how fast they roll.
uh-huh.
They don't even comment. I mean, they do comment on the accordion folds, which is like they roll fast and they hold air super good.
Uh-huh.
um, so I just tried, because I'm a designer, but like I probably should have been an engineer. I
Uh-huh.
just didn't have that opportunity. So I kind of thought with my engineer, industrial designer type mind, and what I thought would work. And then it
Uh-huh.
came back and it really worked super good.
Can you explain what you mean by an accordion roll?
So if you look at the tires, here, wait, hold on. Oh, no, I don't have it. So if you look at the tire, here.
It's probably best you don't. That way people that are listening on the
Okay.
podcast actually get a
Okay.
decision. But if you have
So
it, you can show it, go for it. There
yeah,
are
I mean,
people
I
that are
have, so
watching.
I don't know if you can even see this on here, but if you can see the leading edge of the tire has little indents, little basically triangular sipes that go along the leading edge on the downside of the leading edge of the tire, which lets the front edge of the knob mold to the terrain a little bit. So
Uh-huh.
that's what I call the accordion folds.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so that's that's a little unique feature that we have. And I thought that would work. And I was like I said, I tried not to have I tried to have the angles work in your benefit, and I tried to stack some stuff. So it was like there was more stuff on the ground when you're trying to rolling speed, and it came together to work in.
Mm-hmm. So whenever you're like, okay, I got this design, then obviously there's more to a tire than just like what the tread pattern is. It's like, okay, well, how do I decide what rubber to use? Or like, how did you go down that path of like choosing the
Um,
material or the
both,
TPI for
yeah. So like kind of researched, like what most kind of similar mountain bike tires like I wanted to do,
mm-hmm.
and then also factor availability and kind of what could work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of limited in where I couldn't do whatever a 75 TPI and a 40 durometer, because the factor's like, yeah, we don't do that. So
What's a durometer mean for the people that
durometer is the rubber, the hardness of the rubber.
uh-huh.
And it's a dual density for mine. And then, which is something I
What the,
wanted. I wanted the center row to be, the middle knobs to be harder, so it lasted longer. Because I didn't like when you buy new tires and they're wasted, and after a bike park day. And then
uh-huh.
I wanted the side knobs to be softer, so like when you're trying to get in angles and trying to do turns, it holds you a little bit better.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that was something I was super, like really that drove home with the factory. Like I need to have this, and
So
thankfully
the
they could
rubber
do
in the
it.
middle of yours is harder than the outside, like
Yeah,
side knobs then.
which is kind of standard. Like it's not groundbreaking, it's not rocket science,
Yeah, but there's a
but
lot of
it's
people that are listening to this that don't know that anything about tires other than how much they cost and which ones that they like to buy. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, yeah. So like
um,
I just like thankfully with my experience riding and my experience, like kind of in the industry, I was able to kind of look at some things that worked. I knew that worked, and I know people that are pretty fast on bikes, so I
mhm,
was kind of able to pick their brains, and then did
mhm,
something that would work. And like I said, like I had the accordion folds on the side walls, on the side knobs, and then do the dual durometer so it lasts good, but it still has good traction. You use
mhm.
siping, which is like little slits in the knobs to kind of help it. You can do a harder durometer, which is gonna last better, but then it's gonna act like a little bit softer tire because it lets the knob move a little bit differently.
Yeah, yeah, I can think about like the tire that I'm running right now has little slits in it like that. Just kind of like you look at it when you buy it and you're like, oh, what's that going to do? But I guess it's just like it gives that little bit of give, so it's not as harsh then, huh?
Yeah, yeah, if you don't have that, it's gonna be, like with mine, it's a 60, 63 compound for the harder ones, and it's able to ride like a lot softer tire because I have all those things, various sipes and ramps and all kinds of things, letting it act like a softer compound.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you just do it.
So how many different models of tires do you have now? Or is it just like one tread pattern? Or is it
I have one tread pattern, and then I have 29 and 27 275s. We have the folding beads, and we have gravity beads. Like so trail beads, folding bead, and then gravity casing, which is a wire bead, and then also we have the black and splatter. So I mean, I guess it's 8 SKUs, but
mhm.
it's one kind of all around tread.
Can you talk to me about the difference between those beads? I think a lot of people probably don't know what those are.
Yeah, so I mean, so a trail bead would be more, that's a folding bead, which is more of a traditional mountain bike. Like if people are like, oh, I need a new mountain bike tire, and I don't really know if I want a folding bead or a gravity bead. It's like, oh, you want the folding or trail bead because that's not super thick. The gravity bead or a wire bead so that's a single wall. So there's like your beads right here, and then your rubber goes up around it, and that's what it is. But then
So the bead is basically like the line of nylon or whatever it is that's going in a
yeah,
circle around the tire
basically
that fits
Kevlar. Yeah.
into the
So
wheel.
that's you see, yeah, that's what goes around the wheel, right? Is your
Right.
bead. And folding beads are like an aramid or Kevlar or something like that. So it's a kind of it's elastic. It kind of moves, it can fold and
Uh-huh.
everything like that. And then the wire beads have it's wire literally, and then it's 2 layers of rubber around each side. So instead of being like like this, it's kind of like this, where you got
Okay.
2 layers of rubber going around it to just so it's double wall, and it's just a stronger tire, more beefy but that's for if that's for riding downhill, riding bike parks, riding rampage stuff, or free ride Fiesta that just ended. Those
Why would
guys.
so what does that do then? It just keeps it from like not popping the bead when you're like in a super hard corner, or
Yeah, the bead doesn't want to pop off as far as the wire bead, and then the double wall is just more. It's stiffer for one. It doesn't conform as much. It also is more protection if you're riding in rocky terrain or something like that.
uh-huh.
It's just a beefier tire.
So you're saying then the bead is also determining the thickness of the sidewall as well?
For mine, you could have a fold. There's companies out there that make folding bead gravity casing tires, which is be the dual compound or the dual wall
Uh-huh.
the tires, but mine are wire beads,
Oh, okay.
which is
So,
more expensive to ship, but then it's a little bit heavier, but it's kind of a little bit stronger. So
uh-huh. Usually when you're buying that type of tire, you're not really concerned with the weight as much. So,
yeah, I mean, that's if there's some differences. Like a lot of people run a gravity bead or wire bead in the back to get the extra protection. If you have a lot of rear puncture flats or like pinch flats. But yeah, for the most part, it's lift access or shuttles
yeah.
or more heavy
So like if
duty.
you're talking, I mean, everybody knows, most people know Maxxis tires. So if you're talking about like a double down, that would be a wire bead.
Well, no, double down would be like almost in between. So double down would be a folding bead and a single
Uh-huh.
wall, but then there's a layer of butyl rubber that goes right above the bead, which kind of helps with the pinch flats. So
Oh,
that would be the easiest way to think. If you go into a bike shop and the tires are folded up,
uh-huh.
that's a folding bead or trail casing tire. If the wires are on the wall and they look like tires, they're round and they're
Yeah.
heavier. That's a gravity bead,
Gotcha.
wire bead.
Okay. And then you said you have the folding and the wire
Yeah,
is what you got. Okay, cool. Right on, man.
yeah.
That's interesting.
So
Some of this stuff, dude, like I've been riding since the early 90s, but some of it's like I'm not one of those guys that puts a lot of effort into like researching a lot of shit. I'm like, oh, everybody says they buy this tire. Fuck it, I'll try it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and for me at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, that worked. And like sometimes I know I bought some wire beads before, and I'm like, this thing sucks to try to get on this rim,
Yeah,
I'm not buying that again, but I
yeah,
had no clue like what it did performance wise, I was
yeah. It's
just like,
heavier, and then but then if you're a NorCal, so if you go to North Star and you're on a folding bead, you're gonna blow through tires, right? But
yeah,
if you're on a gravity bead, you have extra rubber in there. It's
uh-huh,
beefier, and it's gonna help protect you more.
yeah. See, even I learned something. So, so at this point, then you send this thing off to the. You said you got like a 3D print originally or something like that.
I just send them a tech pack, which is designer world speak for all your drawings and various front view, side view, top view.
Uh huh.
Um, I sent it to Ronnie, my friend. He's all, dude, that thing's insane. That's the most detailed tech pack I've ever seen. So I sent
Yeah.
that off to the factory. The factory did,
So
you
then they
know,
design it from that point, like for
yeah,
whatever they need to like build how their manufacturing works.
they did the 3D probably in SolidWorks and then kind of went
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
with it. But it was like, I mean, I mean, down to the half a millimeter is what I was specking things out. So
Uh huh.
it was pretty detailed as far as what I wanted.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's so interesting to think about. Like, just I don't even know where I would start. I guess if I was building my own tire, I would look at the tread patterns of the ones that I like, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever I ride, and then copy it a little bit and try to think about how I would change it. But that's super interesting. I mean, that's the way that you went about it. So basically, you send this design off to them, and how long does it take them to get you something back?
Pre-COVID, it was about 3 months,
Uh huh.
and I mean, I ordered my 275s May 19th of 2020,
Uh
and
huh.
I just got some of them like a month ago.
Wow.
So post-COVID, it's a year and a half. Pre-COVID,
Yeah.
it's 6
So
months.
pre-COVID though, like initially when you're doing this out the gate, you send them the files, and you're gonna get like, I don't know what, like 5 tires or something that you can, like 6 tires so you can test them, or like,
You have to pay for the mold first. So they printed out like a 3D printout, plastic printout of just a 6-inch section of the tire. And they sent that to me, and I was like, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. And they're like, okay, it's $1 billion for your mold.
Right.
And then so
Right.
I pay for the mold, and then I pay
Yeah.
half the mold, and then they're like,
You're
okay,
like,
the
here's
mold's
my
done.
firstborn. You can have him.
No, I sold my truck. Like basically, I sold my truck to buy my mold. So it's like, yeah, here's your 50% deposit. And they're like, okay, it's done. You want samples? So I got like 10 samples or whatever it was, and then I had to send them another ton of money, and then I got them, and then.
Right.
But yeah, that was. I mean, I sent it January 2018, and I got this. I was in an accelerator, and I got the samples like May of 19. All right, yeah.
So a couple months later.
Oh, like a couple, like 18 months later.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the.
It's normally shorter, but mine was a bit weird, and I was like I said, I was kind of working the favor.
Yeah.
No, I didn't roll in with like, hey, I want to start a tire company. Here's $3 million. It was like,
right. No, I'm not saying it like in any terms of, dude.
Yeah.
18 months still sounds cool to me. You know what I mean? From like sitting on your couch with your foot blown up to like having some product in your hand. So then I don't know, like what's an initial order look like? You're like 1,000 tires or 5,000 tires, or I don't know.
The MAQs are quite high usually, but I was able to do less because I was able to piggyback with my friend. It was a couple thousand.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah.
So at this point, then you said like 29ers or something is what I'm
assuming? I launched the 29ers because when I first started working on it, I was right when the 29ers were really blowing up. And like through the people I know in the industry, they're like, dude, we're selling 3 or 4 to 1 29ers 275s.
Yeah.
So and I'm 6'3". I'm gonna ride a 29er as soon as my foot's better. So I did the 29er first.
Yeah. So then what widths did you do?
2.4. Like I kind of figured something that works. Everyone's like, oh, you do a 2.5, and it's like that's 2 millimeters difference. And unless you're Aaron Gwynn, you're not gonna notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2.4, so you can use it for racing and you could use it for riding, and then I'll probably do a little bit wider and when things get a little bit less crazy and I can actually order them. But yeah, because I wanted to work for both. I was trying to have something that worked good for a lot of things, which was what I always rode. I was like, back then I rode a 2.35 and a 2.4 in the front, so I was like, oh, let's just do 2.4 and it'll work for both.
So is your tire any different for the front or the rear, or it's the same?
Same mold, yeah. So it's some people run the gravity casing in the rear just for extra puncture protection. But it's the same for both. They're super directional though, so there's some people have put them on backwards, but it's like everything works for you if you have it going the correct direction away, because that's the way all the angles work and the accordion folds work and everything works like that.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. Like I understand what you're saying there. So basically right now what you have is just a 29 or 2.4, right?
Now I have 2.75s too, but yeah. I mean, now if you're talking what do you have now as far as when I started, we launched with the 29er. We have the 2.75s. We're waiting for the splatter foldings, but we have black foldings. We have gravity splatter and the 2.75s, and then all the 29ers we have right now.
So anybody that hasn't looked at his tires or seen them in the past, they kind of have like almost like a Pollock style splash of color in them in yellow, and I don't know if you call that a teal or a blue or blue teal.
Yeah, so we call it blue, but it's really more of a teal. Conveniently, I didn't realize when we launched it that we also have black tires because a lot of people do not like the colored tires at all.
Yeah.
So we have black, but yeah, it's a teal, which I was like, oh, Yeti guys will like it because there's Yeti, but then it's like no specialized Yeti Ibis. Like everybody, Rocky Mountain, everybody had a blue color at some sort of in their bike frame. So it's like when I launched the blues, it was around
because the Ripmo last year was like a blue kind of teal color, too.
Yeah, there's a specialized there's a specialized Enduro, there's a Santa Cruz that had it. There's like at least last year that was the color, and it like you
just got lucky, huh?
I mean, that's just what I thought would work. Like, and I kind of knew just from my design experience, like, because I knew, this is 10, 15 years ago, but like the whole Tiffany blue, which is exactly what that is, was like when we started putting that on t-shirts, it's like you could do a crew t-shirt with a Tiffany blue and you would sell like crazy because it was blue and it was rad. So I launched with the yellow knowing that probably wouldn't be as popular of a color, but that's the brand color. And
Uh-huh.
super black and yellow, like in your logo, is
Yeah.
the highest color contrast there is.
Yeah, it stands
Um,
out really well. Grabs
so then
people's
I was
eyes.
Yeah, so I'm like, the second one's I'm gonna do blue, and then I plan was to do one every 3 or 4 months, but it's sounding, at least with COVID and the supply chain crunch, will be like every 6 months. So the next one will be coming this summer.
Uh-huh. So in the 27.5, what does that come in?
2.4. Yeah,
That's also
there. It's
2.4.
like it's a hair wider than the 29, but it's a true 2.4.
Uh-huh. Right on, man. So then you have the three, like you said, so yellow, blue, and then and these aren't like totally blue for those of you listening. Like the tire is black, and then
Yeah,
it just has, it looked like, the best way I can say it, like a Pollock, kind of like
yeah.
somebody just threw like paint at it. And so
That's
it's got this like splatter kind of design. They're definitely like, they catch your eye. Like
yeah.
there's,
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's. They drizzle like a rubber paint on. That's a perfect analogy, and then it gets
yeah.
pressed into the tire.
I will tell you that your product was the first thing that I saw at Sea Otter that caught my eye, and I wasn't at your booth. It was
Oh,
just like
cool.
walking in the gate, and I'm seeing these guys walking around with these tires, and I'm like, what are those? You know,
Yeah.
like there's no doubt about it. Like you see it and you're like, that's different. That's like really different, you know?
Yeah, I
So
mean, but my idea with it was like, especially right now, like I have yellow on my bike and I have deity pedals and grips, and I was like, oh, if you change to blue, you kind of have a new bike. Like when nobody can buy bikes, like you kind of do a few different things, and you have a new feeling bike,
uh-huh.
for a reasonable amount of money. But yeah, that was the idea. That was our differentiator, was just do some color.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Do you guys have like logos and stuff like that written on the sides?
Yeah, it says the versus all mountain, and then the kind of then the logo on the other side is our little checkered cross
Mhm.
X, and then challenge everything, which is kind of one of our little taglines. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's on, let's say, the 12 o'clock, and then the logo itself is on the 6 o'clock position.
Mhm. Yeah. I is it on both sides, or is it kind of like other
It's
tire
on
company?
both sides, and then the flip side, like the versus tires is across the top, and then down at the bottom it just has just our little logo.
Uh-huh. So you said
So,
challenge everything. What made you want to do that?
well, that just works with, the versus name, and it's like a lot of it is like, versus the mountain, versus the trail, versus your friends, versus the dentist, versus whatever you want to be, or but really versus yourself. Like, challenge everything doesn't have to be, or versus everything doesn't have to be you're trying to win the race. It could be you're trying to do a rad whatever wheelie, or
Yeah.
you're trying to clean a section that you've never cleaned before, or you're trying to like challenge the norm, which is one thing. That's when we if you dig way back on our Instagram, when we
Mhm.
first showed the splatter tires, and that was on the day we announced, like, hey, we're a tire company, because it was kind of all hidden before that. We showed the
Yeah.
yellow splatter tire, um, and that was challenge the norm. Like, you don't have to. Why do we have to ride black tires? And
Right.
also, why do you have to buy tires from a corporation? Why can't you buy it from other riders?
Yeah. Yeah. That's super rad. Talk to me about the logo. How did you come up with that? There's always meaning behind the logo, you know?
So that is so I call it the checkered X, which is like, it's like a checker because you're racing, but it's also turns into an X. And then there's so there's a circle around it, which is kind of like the tire or the shield that's protecting the logo.
Uh-huh.
Um and that just is from my design history. I'm a
Yeah.
design nerd, and just I'm super into bold, super easy to see, strong visual graphics, and kind of
Yeah.
simple. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why it's black and yellow and white, and it's just, I just liked it.
Yeah. 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 I always like seeing little stuff in logos that like people don't think about. My well, biker, if you the shirt I'm wearing right here, a lot of
Hmm.
people don't notice that the K is actually a frame. Like this
Yeah,
is the head tube, and like some people will notice it like way down the road, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize that was like a bike
yeah,
frame in there." I'm like, "Yeah, no, it is, dude. That's like," but it's like stuff like that. I always enjoy seeing like little stuff in logos, or like understanding what people thought about it. They're like, you know, maybe their initials were WNY, or you know what I mean? It's like you can
Yeah.
see that in there. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's just fun. You know, just fun little.
Yeah, you can. I mean, that's like just goes to my design history. That's what's fun for me to do is you hide stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
like I
like
did
a.
a client.
Go ahead.
I did a project for Carson Elledge, who's Dale Earnhardt's granddaughter, and she did
Yeah.
a clothing line called Raceline.
Uh-huh.
And the logo is an oval with an R in the middle, and it's like this is your oval for oval cars, and the R is the street track in the middle, and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's especially if you know her history and her bloodline, really, it's like it speaks so well to it
Yeah.
for that. And then it's like mine, like I wanted to be, the checkered flag, you're winning, it's gold, like you're winning. It's
Yeah.
something super strong and visual, like checkers are just rad and
Yeah.
kind of timeless. So
Yeah. 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 They don't get old. I mean, look at the Vans, right? They still have the checkered pattern on it. You see
mhm,
it, you're like, oh, those are cool.
yeah.
I don't know what it is that's appealing about that. It's probably some kind of like geometric math shit that goes in your brain is like stuck.
Yeah, for me, it's just it's op art or operational art, which is like what I love doing in the design world. So it's like I did for my design, I did some pads for 661, and I had a spot UV, which is kind of or gel print on it that was an op art crazy line pattern.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I just like that stuff, and then
Yeah.
it's like it's so I just like bold,
Yeah.
striking kind of things like that.
But I mean, there's something of like visually appealing about a checkerboard. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like the guy that made the checkerboard or the chessboard, whoever the first dude was, like he could
mhm,
have done that with circles.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like he had to do squares, but the squares they just make more sense, man.
And it works perfect. Everything lines up, and then you get the positive negative to space these two squares, and this square
Right?
makes a square in the middle that's not there, but your eye sees it. And
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man.
yeah,
Super rad. So, I've been watching people throw all kinds of different colors into the chat while we've been talking. Are you thinking about any other colors?
yeah. The next one is the factory just wrote like literally on Thursday. It's like, oh, we looked and we can do another one, so it's supposed to be done in June. So the next
Uh-huh.
one will be. I don't really announce it till it comes out. That's kind of
Yeah,
an
yeah,
email list thing, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm finally get. The
A
idea
new
was
color.
to have one last year when I announced, like, I was supposed to have my 275s, like, last April, and then
Right.
I was gonna do another one in the fall, but it just kinda got backed up and everything's a disaster right now, so
Yeah.
hopefully be like ideally every 4 to 6 months we'll be doing new colors.
Uh-huh. So is your idea to like add colors, or like a new like sell through this lot and then buy a new set of colors? And so like should people be inspired like, hey, right now there's blue, you better fucking get on it because it might not
Ye
be blue next year.
Yeah, the blue one's not the next one, like, the idea is to do just to kinda I'd say limited, but it's not like I'm never gonna do yellow again, but
Right, right.
there's 10 other colors that I want to
Yeah.
do. So I'm probably not going to do those yellows until those ones go through. Like once the international opens up a little bit more and like possibly some, stuff like that, it might happen a little bit faster. But
Uh-huh.
the idea is definitely to do, like say, 2 to 3 or 4 runs of different colors.
Uh-huh.
And then once they're gone for the time being. And then,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
like you'll cycle back to it, like the blue will come up again, but when this one sells out, you might be doing with green or red
yeah.
or whatever it is, pink, something, so
Yeah, I mean, I'm just off the top of my head. There's 8 other colors I want to do, so like
yeah.
that kind of tell you when blue is going to come next. And like, unless we decide
I
differently,
keep
or
seeing people say red. I'm just thinking that must be the specialized crew, man.
we'll specialize, and also all the SRAM, the Rock Shocks is also
Yeah.
red. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one's
that's
coming.
true.
I have a really rad, like incredibly awesome collab plan for that one. So that's not the next one because
Yeah,
that's like
yeah,
for an old kind of biker BMX nerd, like that'll be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Yeah, like I'm just like in my head, I don't know. I got the design edge too, though. So I'm like, I've been on this kick, like I don't know what it is lately, but I'm like, and I think I was like I'm starting to notice it too a lot with other shit that's coming out. But for me, I fell into this like bright ass obnoxious 80s color thing again,
Mhm.
where like I got a bunch of pink on my Bronson and stuff like that. And it just is like, it's fun. And I think that it's the reason I think that I like, for instance, the pink on my bike is like, you don't see many dudes that are like rocking pink. You know what I mean? So it like a lot of chicks will be like, man, your bike looks rad, you know, but like, and to me, I just like it because it's fucking obnoxious, you know, and when I take Instagram pictures of it, it just like pops, you know, so it's like, it looks rad. And I don't know. So maybe whenever like everybody else falls into that club, I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go with the matte colors now.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of why it went that way. If you look at like design history for anything, it's like it was so matte and so olive drab and so plain that it kind of makes sense that people are going to want to do something a little bit different. And then I'm like you too, where it's like I don't like I tried to get a pink cast when I broke my thumb, you know, like I just because I wanted to be weird and just wanted to run it. Where like I don't care. It's just kind of fun, you know.
I'm feeling like purple is going to be my next pink, you know?
Yeah. Purple's rad. I love purple.
Yeah. I've been looking at purple lately. I like bought because I got this thing. You know what a cricket is? It's like,
the cutter. Yeah.
With like 40-year-old like housewives, like make shirts and stickers and all kinds of stuff. So like with my buddy Richard from Stickered, sometimes he'll print something. And then once I like hold it, I'm like, nope, don't like it. And he's like super irritated with me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get this thing so that I can like make some stuff on my own first before I'm like, okay, this is what I want in my sticker pack, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, for me, like I'm one of those people that I just need to like see it actually in person. Like I can design it and look at it and be like, oh, that looks rad on Illustrator. But sometimes like when I hold it in my hand, it's just like, no. You know what I mean? Like
like that's a whole for the design world. That's a whole thing. You have to comp stuff up and show like this is what your logo is going to look like on the side of a car or a bus or like on a T-shirt or whatever it is. And a lot of stuff changes. You know, you get it. And go, oh yeah, that didn't work. Like
So I got this cricket so that I could start just messing around, right?
Yeah.
And like if I wanted to print, you know, purple Santa Cruz, I could print purple Santa Cruz. My material is not anywhere like his. Like it would last freaking 3 days in the water, you know, or something like that. But at least for me to put it on my bike and be like, no, that looks sick. Okay, now I'm gonna order it, you know?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And so I bought this thing and it's just like originally my idea was just like I want to make a couple of stickers or like sometimes I have these like ideas of shit that I want to do that's just disruptive to people. Like for instance, one of the stickers that I wanted to make when I bought that thing was when you go into the bathroom and they always have those stickers that say employees must wash hands.
Yeah.
So I made a bunch of stickers that say employees must ride bikes.
Yeah. Love it.
So like that was one of the things that I wanted to do, you know, and it's like I don't need to buy 500 of them. I only need to make like 10 until I need some more, you know. So, but it also got me like making T-shirts too, because this thing like does all kinds of shit. I didn't even know about it, you know. And
those things are rad.
I bought the purple shirts the other day, and that's when I was like, I feel the purple coming. So, anyways, back to your tires. So, out of that first shipment, is that sold yet, or is it still like kind of working its way through?
The very, very first shipment, there's 20 something downhill tires left.
Right on, man. Did it go faster than you thought?
No. You know, I kind of knew that the folding beads would sell faster. It was hard for me because of so many people wanted the 275s, and I was like, and I originally thought I was going to have those in by holiday 2020.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of difficult and frustrating, but it's just how everything's going right now. You know, it's going really well. Like people, it's like the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. I sold a bunch of tires, and then they go home and ride them in Arizona, and they tell their friends, and then now I'm selling about a lot of tires to the Arizona area. Or same thing for like I sold a dude, somebody bought some in Bozeman, Montana, and then like 3 weeks later, like, you know, within 3 weeks, there's like 4 more orders. And I wrote one of the guys, like, no, that was my friend. Like, we made sure he bought them first to make sure they were good, and now we're all stoked on them, you know. So
yeah,
it's like that was part of the plan, was was word of mouth was a lot of it, and a lot of it was events, but those were all shut down. Like I didn't.
That's what I
I
was
mean, I
gonna
really
say.
need my. Yeah, it
By
was.
the way that you got your first order, you would have been set for freaking Sea Otter. Were you
Yeah, it
planning
was.
on going to?
Yeah,
Was
I was
that
gonna
like going to
Sea
be your
Otter.
launch?
Technically, it was supposed to be Sedona 2020, but they were late. So like by like 2 weeks, so I missed that one, and then the world shut down.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
it was
because
like,
I
yeah,
went
I
to
was,
that.
I
I went to that Sedona, and it was like that was like we got off the plane, and like a week later, it was like fucking locked down. Like that was it.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
my friend Pete that works at Zoic had a set at that one 2020. He's like, yeah, people were freaking like, um, but yeah, it was like I air freighted some over, and then that was a huge part of the plan was to go to these events so people can touch them because
yeah,
it's like if the big tire brand is Nike and you're trying to get people to buy shoes you've never heard of, like
yeah,
you can't try on, you can't see them, like it's kind of hard to get these people to
yeah,
trust it, but then thankfully when they do, they're stoked on them. So
yeah, 100%. So that kind of threw. So then at that point, your growth like turned into just organic from people that were like interested in just doing something different.
yeah, just doing something different, and then like it was. I mean, it's when we launched. It's hard. Like I had photographers that like Natalie Starr is a super rad photographer. That's like, I'll give you some photos of my friends that are riding bikes, and like like you don't or like you know not on your tires, but because we couldn't even do a photo shoot because you couldn't like that was a weird area, like at least
Yeah,
down here, where like
yeah,
you're allowed to be outside, but you can't be in groups of people and you can't do anything. So it's like, dude,
yeah,
I can't even have my photographer friends take pictures of the stuff because
yeah,
we can't be more than 10 people together or 5 people together to go ride bikes.
yeah. Yeah, I was definitely not one of those people that followed the rules very well.
Yeah.
I I did the first 2 weeks where it was like, in 2 weeks, everything's gonna be normal again. And then
Hmm.
after 2 weeks, it was like, okay, well, I'm riding with my friends that I normally ride with. And then like a
Yeah.
month after that, then it was like, well, if they feel the same way about their friends as I feel about them, those people are allowed to be in the shuttle truck now too.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
frustrating for sure. Like
Yeah, I can
as
totally
far as
understand.
like, having, you know, your life savings tied into
Yeah,
this, and then saying like, yeah, no, all these events you want, and then what's worse is they're like, oh, you didn't have any sales in 2019, you can't get any assistance. I'm like, dude, what? Like,
yeah.
it's just
Oh,
so,
that sucks. Yeah,
yeah,
I see what you're saying now because you're like, I wasn't a company last year. Of course, I don't have any
yeah.
sales.
Yeah, and technically, I sold one set to one of my mentor advisors. So I've seriously thought about going back and changing my tax returns to show that I sold $100 worth of tires, so
Yeah,
I can say I sold tires in 2019 and then get
right,
lower.
right. Oh my God, what a mess. And it sucks too because meanwhile, okay, it started out stupid, right? Everybody was locked down, but then everything in the bike industry just started blowing up,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So at that point, you're just leaning on like your social media and like how did you
Yeah.
get the word out? You start sending it to like Pink Bike or
Social media,
something?
and
Or?
then so I launched on, it was Pink Bike had that thing. Remember the pond beaver that they had?
Yeah, yeah.
So so this is April 14th, and they're like, your stuff's going up tomorrow. I'm like, dude, my site's not done. Like, can you wait? And the Vital guys, like, I was, worked with them, and they're, can you give him a couple days? His site's not done. They're like, nope, it's going up tomorrow. Like, that's the last day for Pond Beaver. That's it. So I told them to go. I told Vital and Lomel, hey, put the thing up. I'm gonna put basically, we're coming soon. Here, sign up for our email list, which in hindsight almost worked better because all those people from those websites came to our website or my website and then signed up for our email list.
Uh-huh.
So, so I had a decent email list right off the bat, and then have just been running that. But like you said, email lists, social, like if I got a review, I would notice a bump in sales, like single tracks. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
these tires are great. Like one of the best products you rode this year. And like, oh, cool. I sold 10 sets of tires or 20 sets of tires. And then
Yeah, yeah.
Teton. So it was like, I was just trying to get them out to as many people as I could to test them. And then, come on shows like yours or like Mark's, the segment and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. And it's just getting the word out. Like, cause a lot of
Yeah.
people never heard of it. And then once I got to go to events, then it's like, oh, and then it's really started to take off in the past few months.
So was Sea Otter your first? That was your first like real event, or like what was the
The
first thing you
first
went
big one, like I did some events down here, the Team Big Bear Velocity Enduro races last spring,
to? Uh-huh.
which was weird because no one had been around anybody in forever. Like you saw your family, and that was it. And I go to this thing, there's like 700 people that are racing, which was super rad. But you're like, oh, should I be wearing a mask? Like I'm outdoors, it's okay, right? And then it's like, and
Yeah.
then eventually that faded away, and then I did Straight Acres, I did some a BME race. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I did some, as much as I could, and then Sea Otter was the first big event where I met you, and then I
Yeah.
did Sedona like a couple months ago, and now again in a
Yeah.
few weeks it's happening, and
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it like, getting into Sea Otter? Like, because first of all, I mean, those booths aren't cheap, so
yeah, it was. I mean, it was just the expense was the main part, and they kind of helped me out, which was rad. Like I can't say that my spot was ideal, but
yeah.
it was kind of cool because there was a bunch of people like I would, because I was in the grass section, and then there's an aisleway right here, and I'd hear people like, "Oh, versus those tires are sick," or "Oh, they came by, and, oh, I saw your splatter," because I had a big billboard thing. I saw your splatter from over there, and I came in to
Yeah.
see you. So, and then thankfully the guys right behind me, they were in the accelerator with me, the Orocase guys, so they kind of helped out a little bit. Like, "Hey, I have to go to the bathroom. Can you hang out here for a minute?" And like they would come and hang
Yeah.
out. And I had some friends
Yeah.
that were filming, doing weird things there, so they came by, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's super rad. Yeah. I'm sure the word of mouth there had to spread quickly because, like I said, I saw your tires probably within the first few minutes of just getting there. And I mean, you see that paint splatter. There's nothing else on the market like that. So
Yeah, that was
instantly you're like, where are these coming from? Where are these guys getting those at?
yeah, that was rad when people would do those, and they, like you said, they'd full bandolier it like around the thing, or they carry it in their bag or whatever it is. But people see it, and then I would notice like, oh, they saw the dude that just bought those blue ones, and now they're coming over to
Yeah.
check them out. Like it was definitely for a decent amount of time after that, you would have people cruising by, and like you said, people would see it. Hey, where'd you get those? It's like, oh, it's over there in the random grass section. So
Yeah. 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 So did you sell like a boatload of tires while you were there? Or like,
I
do you
sold
feel
a
like
pretty good amount, like, enough to like I broke even a little bit more. I made a little bit of money, so
uh-huh.
but a lot of that is just to be there and, like you said, to get people to see them
Yeah.
and kind of know that you're a brand and that it exists. And there's a lot of people like there was a lot of people there like, dude, I just bought tires. Like
Yeah.
but I've heard about you. I want to check them out, and so it's
Yeah. And I
just
mean,
getting
and right now, like, I mean, even still, it's just a pain in the ass to get anything.
yeah
Like I just gave my buddy like because pretty much anytime I see like like a tire that I use, I'm gonna buy it even if I don't need it right now.
yeah for sure.
Because whenever I go to get what I want, like they never have like that tread pattern or that like casing or whatever.
That's
And
part of why I started this too, is like just because it sucks having to search for all that stuff, right? Like if
right.
you like our tires, you just go online and buy them. Like, yeah, you can't get it the day of, but as long as like I generally ship within a day, so
Yeah.
you kind of know, like, oh, my tire's almost out. I should probably get one soon. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah. And I finally, when I was, let's just say before COVID, that's probably the most accurate way to say it, that I was always a person that would just go buy a tire whenever you ripped it. You go to the bike shop, they
mm,
always got tires. They got everything you need, right?
yeah,
And now I'm definitely turned into a different person where it's like I have a couple of tires that I like hanging on the wall. That way today when I freaking trash one, I don't have to worry about going to the store or like whatever. Like I can come home, put it on, and I'll still be able to ride tomorrow. I don't
yeah,
have to like get up early or, oh, I gotta wait until after 10 so I can get to the shop, and at this point it's like you don't even know if the shop's going to have it. But at the end of the day, I think what I'm really trying to say is I put a lot more value in having the tires like available to you. So like with your company, I'd be able to, pull one off the wall and order another one. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And be there in a couple of days. So you're shipping just in the US right now or everywhere or
We go everywhere. Like it's hard because the shipping price is so expensive. You know, to ship them out of the country. But yeah, we
yeah.
ship them. I mean, almost wherever you want to buy it. It's kind of cost prohibitive. I do have got a distributor in Chile and
Yeah, I saw
Mexico.
somebody say something about like New Zealand or something like that at the
I
very
want
beginning.
New Zealand is like, I've sold a couple sets there, and the people pay more for shipping than they do to buy the tires. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
much
crazy.
money. Like, even
Yeah,
I was talking with the photographer there, and I'm like, it's just like, for me to outfit his crew with tires to go, it was like $1,000 with the tires.
yeah,
It's so much money. So I'm
yeah. New
working on it
Zealand and
though.
Australia are both like insanely expensive to even ship anything there.
Yeah. Go well. The problem is, if it's over, I think it's 4 pounds, you can't do first class mail with the USPS, and
Uh-huh.
then it's just forget it. It's $100. Like,
Yeah. Like with my merch, I changed my website so I only ship to the US. If somebody sends me a message, I will like I'll look up the shipping and be like, look, this is how much it costs. If you want to do that, like
mhm.
I'll still ship it to you. But I don't have my website set up just to ship anywhere because I mean it's like, oh, okay, let's just say for instance, like I have one of these like Yeti kind of cups on there.
Yeah.
It's like it's $20, right? If your shipping is $35 to get to Singapore,
Yeah.
I'm actually losing money by selling this to you, you know?
Yeah. There was
Uh,
like, yeah, there was a lot that yeah, I mean, the postal service, both our end and the other ends, they lost a lot of packages,
yeah.
or like, say, to Canada, like FedEx Ground is like, oh yeah, there's a $30 customs charge on top of whatever you're paying. And it's like, I just, like, I'm working with shops and or distributors, and trying to get it
Yeah.
somewhat global so people can get tires other places for
Yeah,
reasonable.
at least that way, like you could take a hit for like a big shipment to go to like some bike shop in New Zealand and then they can be your distributor kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, like, yeah. So I'm actively working on Australia, New Zealand, because there's a lot of interest there, and then like across Europe, and then we'll probably do shops in Canada,
Uh-huh.
um, at least for the time being, because I know some rad ones up there, and
Uh-huh.
then just try to keep it growing and just try to get more people on tires. And
Yeah. So is it like more like do you feel like you're overextending yourself like trying to go international or you think that it's better to like maybe just focus on the US and build that market before you try to like
um,
jump into all these other segments?
well, I mean, as so most of the international would be distributors,
Uh-huh.
which would help, because that would help with minimums, and you're asking about multiple colors and stuff like that. If I could get a few distributors, and then it's easy for me to meet the minimums.
Uh-huh.
And then it's like and then it can just help grow, because for me now, like, I'll ship internationally, but it's so expensive, it doesn't really exist. And you get people that, like, dude, there's people that in Germany that pay over $100 to get a set of tires. Like, there's one, I'm giving my 275 folding, like, just a handful of them next week, and they paid, I think it was $120 to ship to Japan for a
Wow.
set of tires that they paid, what, $140 for.
Yeah.
Um, so I just want to get, like, people stoked on being able to ride the different stuff, and as far as I go, like, it is more work, but it's not super complicated to get to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
So, and it would allow me to grow the brand more and do more
Yeah.
in the US if I can get help otherwise. So and then
Yeah.
we all can grow, like,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, every set of tires that you sell is with the understanding that they're good tires. Every set that you sell is going to sell more. It's
Oh
either going
yeah.
to sell more to that guy or gal or whoever it is
Hmm.
or their friends because they're
Yeah.
going to be like, I know, like, even if I'm not an influencer or social media kind of guy, I still would buy a product before I did YouTube and tell my buddies, and then they would be using the same product.
Yeah, and
You know
then
what I
there's like,
mean?
yeah, there's the weird people that are super like, I only ride Maxxis, and
Yeah.
or I only like this one compound, and but for the most part, like, most people are gonna try it out, and especially if you have the splatters, like, everyone comes and talks to you. Like, I get stoked when people buy the splatters, because I know they're gonna get asked a million questions, and
Yeah.
I know that those answers are generally gonna be positive. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, then those people are like, those people are gonna check them out, and
Yeah.
it's just a snowball. Hopefully, it
Yeah.
keeps
Yeah.
rolling.
Yeah, definitely. Like I Definitely hear you loud and clear on that one for sure. Yeah, that's rad. So, do you think that you would like to make, I mean, obviously you have to make a certain amount of money before you want to like try to get another mold. Would, if you were to do another mold, would you do a different, like a rear or a front different, or would you go for an entire different like tread pattern?
Both, right? So I mean, I was supposed to have 2 new tires this year, but even I want to do a 26-inch version of my tire for sure. Just the exact same one, just because I have a Noli podium that I want to be able to ride with
Uh-huh.
my tires. But yeah, then I would probably do a different tread and maybe a different style, and it's just hard. Like it's so like that's just like it's just so frustrating dealing with
Yeah.
all this stuff. And you're just like, oh, like I know if I had these, I could sell them, and then it's like, oh yeah, you're not getting them. It's like that's gone forever, right? Those X amount of sales you had are like you can't get them back because you
Yeah.
kind of hope that the people maybe the next time they buy tires they try yours, um but yeah, this whole pandemic thing is really frustrating.
What's the
Sorry about that.
frustrating part? Just the turnaround times on it,
The
or?
turnaround is even able to get factory time. So I've been writing for, I thought I was gonna have production throughout spring, and they're like, no, but you're getting two, right? And it's because I'm the little guy, and
Uh-huh.
I don't have Trek money or whatever money to like, oh hey, here's what
Yeah.
X million dollars to lock down production for however much stuff we want to do.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a real problem. Like thankfully I'm with my friend who is a big player in that world and in
Yeah.
that factory, and he can help me out, but
Are those
it's still
factories kind of like the like the carbon factories and stuff? It's kind of like there's a couple of factories that basically makes everybody's tires.
there's more than that, but there's not a lot, like
Yeah.
it's not like those where it's like say 3 companies make everybody's stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not like they're on every corner.
Yeah. How so
Especially that wanna deal with you and wanna make good tires and, like, don't and aren't gonna backstab you or sell your stuff out the back door, like,
yeah.
right? There's a whole bunch of other stuff you don't even think about that's like, "Oh, wait, no, that's not good." So
Yeah, I've had a few things made, like going through like Alibaba to like figure out, I want to make this merch, right?
mhm,
And my first process, I think, was the first thing I made. Oh, where my I have these like credit card bottle openers that I made.
mhm,
And like the company that I ordered from was like super rad and it was easy to work with them. And I was like, dude, this is like having shit made stuff is pretty easy. It's kind of like
mhm,
we were talking, I'll fill the guests in. We were talking before the show, and I was saying that when I had my son, it was super easy. So it was like all I had to do was feed him and change his diaper, and he was like sleeping through the night, not even like I'm barely over a month old. And I was like, man, this is so easy. I'm gonna do this again. And then I had my daughter, and I was like, oh my God. I think if I had my daughter first, I don't even know if I would have had another kid.
mhm.
She,
My mom said that, like, I was the easy one, and my mom's like, "Yeah, your brother was a lot, like, that's why you don't have any more brothers," like,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, I believe it. My daughter was like, you could hold her, she'd be totally asleep. Like you could pick her arm up and just drop it, and it'd be like, like
mhm,
like a spaghetti noodle. And as soon as you put her in her crib, she would be screaming at the top of her lungs and not stop. And so, like,
yeah,
the only way that she would sleep for outside of your arms was in that like little swingy chair thingy that you can
mhm,
get.
yep,
And I think now they have them that you can actually like plug them in. But when she was a baby, they only worked on like D cell batteries. And
yeah,
I swear to God, I was buying them like at Costco, like by the pallet. Because it was like you could stick her in that chair and she would actually sleep most of the night. And it was like, I will pay whatever it takes in D cell batteries to have like 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep, you know?
yeah, yeah, he had acid reflux really, really, really bad, so it was hold feed him for 45 minutes, hold him for an hour, and then he'd
Yeah.
sleep for an hour, and then you basically get up and get ready to you have to start getting ready to feed him again,
Yeah.
but like I
Yeah.
said, so that was me, like, literally holding him in my arms, sleeping and working on the computer on the other hand.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
or the little bit he went down, I would, like, and I had the monitor, so I come back and work, and then he started crying, so I ran back there and just do the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So here's the bottle opener. So it
Yeah.
looks like the size of a credit card, but it looks like a beer can. And so making this was super easy. And it was like a really fun process. I like designed it on Illustrator and sent it over. And next thing you know, like a month later, I got a couple hundred of these things in my hand. So I was like, that was rad. Then I tried to make some headbands. So sweatbands, that,
Hmm.
sort of like a lot like the ones by Halo. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah.
And so it's a different company, right? And holy crap, that process was not the same. And it was like 8 months probably of I would get frustrated with them to the point where I'm like, I don't even fucking care. They can keep my money that I've given them already. I'm not answering any more questions. I'm not trying to like go through this process anymore. I'm over it.
Hmm.
I'm totally over it. And then like a month later, I'd be like, I'm gonna send them a message, and then it was just like such a pain in the ass. So I can understand from my like stupid little things that I'm making the process that you're going through, and like to have a place that's reputable and like fun to work with, that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, we did like I used to do I used to work in the snowboard industry, so we did outerwear at one of my places, and they're like they took our tech packs and like near the final samples, like, oh, we added a pocket here because we thought you'd like a pocket. Like that wasn't on any of the drawings. Like no, and this is like in the mid late '90s or something like
Yeah,
that. So it's like
yeah,
that was like a 2-month deal, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not like
yeah,
now where you email them, or I guess you can email them, but it's like,
yeah,
like you get your FedEx, you're like, no, that's not good. And it's like, okay, it's not like you couldn't Zoom them and say that's not right. Like, it's just,
right,
I think our production dude had to go over there and like sit
yeah,
in the factory and say, no, this is what we
yeah,
need. So we have our samples for the trade show in 3 months.
yeah. I didn't like, it was so frustrating because like you said, like I sent them a freaking design file that's
Hmm.
showing like to the millimeter what size
Yeah.
it is, how it should be, where the logo should be. And next thing you know, you get something that's got like seams on both sides, and like you're like, this is nothing like what I asked you. Like I sent you a picture of what it should look like. This does not look like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaking super frustrating. But yeah, well, here we go. So I ended up, put it this way, I did end up with like a couple hundred headbands that are not the way that I wanted them, but they say biker on them, so I just give those away for free all the
There you go. Yeah.
time. But so anyway, so you got this factory that you're working with over there that's not giving you all the time that you would like. So that's part of your frustration. Is anything else that, like, looking back, that you're like, man, I wish I would have went about it this way? Or is it really just based about the pandemic?
For me, it's mostly the pandemic because I had a pretty solid. I mean, I know the design and branding stuff. I had that pretty on point from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, you were locked
And
in there.
I went through the SDSI. I went through an accelerator here in San Diego, like for sports and active lifestyle. So I kind of had that whole, buttoned down pretty good. So for me, it was like it's mostly related to that pandemic mess. Is most of my frustration, and just like I still ride bikes, right? Like I want people to be stoked on tires and be able to get on them and go and have fun and ride with their friends, and it's it's frustrating to me that I pre-sold tires, right? And people are super bummed. When are our tires gonna get here? I'm like, sorry, man. Like I'm telling you what they tell me. Like it's not. I'm not trying to jerk you around. It's just
Yeah.
it's not really even the factory's fault. Like they're doing the best they can. They're rad. Like they're fully helped me out with whatever little problems I had. They've helped me out. And they do all the stuff that they can. But it's still like it's just everything. Like you saw all the random people riding Walmart bikes and all
Yeah.
the random stuff you read about propane and Specialized and everybody in the world increasing their prices. That's because I saw something that's like there's millions more bike riders right now, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're like buying a junk bike, there's still millions more people that all there's only so many resources that all these factories have to be able to make stuff. So it's just
Yeah.
that's just how it goes. And then hopefully, like you can make it through it, and hopefully you can kind of get your stuff to where you're a company and
Yeah.
you like like I had a tire my black folding 29s were on a Vital Dream bike last year on Valentine's Day, which is a rad privateer. You should watch the video. It's really funny that they did.
Yeah.
But I sold out of them like 2 weeks later, and I didn't get any back until right before I met you at Sea Otter. Like I
Right.
got restocked like the day before I left for Sea Otter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
That's
was
got
my
to be
main
super
selling tire.
frustrating where you're like, you just can't get your product.
Yeah, like so last January I was gonna get more tires in April, and then it was June, and then it was October. It's like, oh man, like it's just
That's got to make you feel like the world's like against you, you know?
yeah,
Like it's like you've sunk your entire freaking life into this thing, right?
it was hard for me
And
too, is like like with my kid, right? Like I'm if I'm not gonna have if if this doesn't work for some reason, like
right.
I don't think that's the case at all, but it's like I missed out on his life, right?
Yeah.
Like because I'm doing this stuff, or we're
Yeah.
not able to do as much because a lot of our money is tied up in that. So,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I mean, it's everybody's dealing with the same problems. It's kind of sounds super cheesy, but you just kind of have to roll with it and just try to
Yeah.
do some different things like that I hopefully can announce soon that are
Uh-huh.
outside of tires that hopefully
Uh-huh.
will work. And
But that'll be on the Versus brand as well.
I'm not sure yet. I think so, but I'm not totally sure.
Yeah. 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 That's rad though. So at this point, you're ramping up for Sedona, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can't
Yeah.
wait. Everyone that event's right. You're going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely, dude. The first time I went to Sedona, it was actually the first like mountain bike festival that I ever went to, and I knew that weekend that I'm going to go for the rest of my life unless something like really gets in the way.
I
You,
was
you
like,
know?
yeah, I've been to Sedona and I'd ridden Sedona, but I'd never been to the festival until just the one in October or November.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is rad. Like I
Yeah.
can't wait to come back to this.
Yeah.
Like
And even in November, that event still had the same vibe that it always
yeah,
does. It's like I try to explain it to people. I mean, I'm sure people that listen to this podcast all the time, they've heard me rant about it so many times, but it's just like it's it's everything that you would want a mountain biking event to be.
yeah,
Like
it's
it's
good.
laid back, there's great freaking riding, like it's not so like Sea Otter, in my opinion, is like too big where you get like sensory overload. It's
Yeah.
just like you're like, oh man, there's so much to look at. I feel like I didn't see it all, even though I'm like completely tired of walking around looking at stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think the way that I feel the same way, and that what I kind of came down to with Sedona was that it feels it's all the same group, right? Like everybody that's at Sedona kind of rides the same mountain bikes that you do.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you go back to like in the '90s when I was growing up, like oh, you snowboard. My friend's cousin snowboards. You guys should snowboard together. So it's kind of like the
Yeah.
same thing. We're like, oh, you ride mountain bikes, like crazy
Yeah.
ones. Oh, I do that too. Let's go ride.
Yeah.
So it's kind of your same group of friends, and it's like
Right.
we're Sea Otter. There's that, but there's a cross country dude, and there's a roadie guy, and there's a weird e-bike crowd, and there's so many different people. It's too trade showy. Where
Yeah.
this is one. I mean, Sedona is really one group of people, and you go.
Yeah. It's like
Everybody
all the
rides
people
bikes.
like riding rad trails and
Yeah,
drinking beer and like you know what I mean? It's like they got the band playing all day. They got the
hmm
microbrews over there. It's just like, this is so cool, man. Like even if you go with the lady and she doesn't even want to like I took my lady down. She rides a little bit, but she doesn't want to ride, high line and stuff like that. But
yeah.
she's down for sitting in the grass and listening to the band for a while and drinking some beers and you know what I mean?
That's what's rad about Sedona is there's trails for for your kid, right? Or your
Yeah.
wife or anybody. And like I was telling my friend Ronnie, I'm like, dude, you should come out. He's like, oh, I'm not. He just riding mountain bikes, but he's like, I'm not really there yet. I'm like, no, dude, there's like trails that like you could go on with your kid, and there's like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Like, and there's
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
in between. So like you'll have
Yeah.
fun either way, And it's like, so it's just like you said, it's a rad event, rad vibe, rad
Yeah.
trails. For me, it's not
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah. It's not, especially you said you're in the San Diego-ish area, right?
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
7 hours or so.
Yeah. That's not too bad of a drive. I've driven down with my last job. We had an office in Irvine, and sometimes I would drive to like Irvine, that's like 6 hours. I'd do something like work a Friday or something like that, and then shoot over to like Phoenix, Sedona area, and be like, another 6 hours from there. And that was like having that midway point to split it up. That's not that bad of a drive. But I'll tell you, I've been flying to Sedona lately, the last couple of times, and I don't mind road tripping to Sedona because it's all fun. You're like maybe having some roadies and having a good time, but on the way back, you're like, I'm so done. I just want to be home.
Yeah, that was after Sea Otter, where I was like, oh my, I've been on my feet for 4 days and talking to people, and it's like, and I have to drive home. I have to pack the booth up and then drive home for 7 hours. So
Right.
the Tasco guys live right down the street from me, and I just talked to them a while ago. He's like, hey, do you remember passing us at like 1 o'clock in the morning on the 78? I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, we were going like 60 and towing the trailer, and you were going like 90. I'm like, yeah, I wanted to get home, man. I was done. Like, that's why I have a van.
That's funny. Yeah. The Nate and those guys, they're good dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
Super
Nate
rad.
a lot. He's definitely a good guy. So anybody that's like looking for some good gloves or some shorts, his shorts are like
I love those
the
things.
most comfortable shorts I've ever worn.
Yeah, I wear them all the time.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
They're
super good.
spendy, but it's like one of those things, like you get what you pay for, especially with gear, So
Yeah, I've done like like almost not maybe Alibaba level random stuff like back in the day. Like, and I just found it. I'm like, this is all garbage. Like,
yeah,
you saved yourself a little bit of money, but it's really trash that you wore
yeah.
twice, and now you have to go buy it again. Like,
Or like the like seams are just in like the wrong place. You're like,
yeah.
why is my taint hurting? Oh, it's because there's like a bunch of material there. That's why, dude. Yeah. So what are you excited about for Sedona? Like, are you releasing anything there, or you're just excited to
We might have the one thing, hopefully,
uh-huh.
that's the goal. And then I should have the 275 tires, I think.
Uh-huh.
At least I have some anyways. I have the gravities now.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'm stoked to go ride my bike. I'm like, we're talking about flying some people in, and then some guys that live in the area are gonna come and hang out and ride, and might do a group ride.
Uh-huh.
But trying to figure out some sort of random, like that Tasco, the rad RC car thing that they did last year.
Yeah, that
Like
was super
that thing was,
cool.
I want to do something random like that just because it's fun, and especially if I'm stuck there all day, then I can like do some random things. So I'm trying to figure something out like that right now. Some sort of contest I want to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
ride
Yeah,
bikes.
you should make like a Plinko board or something like that. That would be fun. Have some kind
Yeah,
of
I was
game.
thinking, yeah, I want to do some sort of game.
Yeah.
Like, there's one that I want to do, but I don't know if I could pull it off, so I might have to save that for later. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
do something else. It'll be something.
One of my friends made a Plinko board and he was just showing it to me the other day. And that's why I was in my head. And I was like, that's one of those things that's like, it's just visually fun to like drop that thing in there and watch it go down,
Yeah,
And if at the
that's a good
bottom you
idea.
save like $5 or something like that, or you get a sticker or you get a
Mhm.
whatever, like it's just one of those things. Like it makes noise too. So then other people
Yeah,
are like, oh, what's that over there? You know?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm super stoked to go back to Sedona. Or so you're gonna be able to ride though. You're gonna have some people helping you with the booth or
Yeah, and then I think I might take some of the Zoic thing, where they were closed like one day in the morning, and I was like, I'm gonna fully steal that and just do it. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna ride some. I'm gonna try to get there early, and then maybe stay a day late or something to ride a little bit more, and then
yeah,
try to do something. I have some guys who are super into helping. So Jeremy
yeah,
Hottinger, who's like a Rampage Proving Grounds dude, is like, I'll lead a group ride if you want. I'm like, hell yeah, that'd be sick. So
yeah.
I think we're trying to do, a group ride and try to ride a bit and have fun.
Yeah, no, that's definitely there's so much to do there,
Yeah.
and last year in the November one, I didn't spend much time at the fest. It was like
Mm.
actually one of the first times it just ended up being like, the way that we rode or the mechanicals that we ran into or, whatever. It just, we didn't actually have a whole lot of time there. And this one that's coming up, I don't have a whole lot of like plans. I don't even like last time I was like, oh, I want to make sure I do hangover. I want to make sure I do highline. Like I had a bunch of like stuff that I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
And this time, like what I really want to do is really like more it has to do with like hanging out at the fest and talking to people. And, I want to obviously I want to do some riding, but I don't have as much of an aggressive riding schedule as I did last time, you know?
A lot of that's
So,
epic too. Like I was like my basically the Dylan Stark jump ramp thing they did in the wheelie competition was right at where my booth was. So there was
uh-huh.
antics going on like every day, and it was
Yeah.
crazy. It was really
Yeah.
cool.
The Tasco guys usually have a pretty good after party going on
Yep.
at their tent, like most days, or there's one particular day, I don't remember what it is, but just about every time I've been down there, like I've found myself, at 6 or whatever, down still there at the event.
Yeah.
It's all dark and everybody's still standing around drinking,
Yeah, that's I mean
So,
that's I don't know. It's just like I said, like it's just because there's everybody that's like us there, and you're like or people that ride the type of mountain bikes that we ride. So you at very least, what kind of bike you ride? Oh, I do this. Where do you ride? Oh, cool. Like
yeah,
you're automatically almost friends with people to start with, and then
yeah,
some of them are gnarly, and some of them might be beginners, and some might ride different stuff than you. But at least you all ride mountain bikes. You're all stoked on it.
yeah.
Like you're stoked enough to be at this festival. So
Right, right. I think the other thing I like about that event is that you can go for free. Like, you don't
yeah,
have to buy a ticket, like, you can just walk right in and walk around and check everything out, and if you wanna buy a ticket and get a beer mug and a pair of socks and whatever else it comes like, and the ability to demo the bikes, I mean, that's obviously a big thing, but I think that part's really rad as well. I was doing, like, this camping event with my channel when I first started, and for whatever reason, then we had, like, a big snow year and some other things, and so I haven't done it for, like, a couple of years. But ultimately, like, I'd really like to build a pretty fun event, and a lot of my ideas of what I want are based off of, like, how I have the time that I have in Sedona, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be yeah, if you listen to music, the Dirty Bird campouts, like, kind of sound it's a music festival, but it sounds like it's a lot more fun than that.
Yeah.
That'd be rad. Like,
Yeah.
if you do it, let me know. We'd be into going.
Yeah, the way that I did the camping thing before would be like, "Hey, we're all going to Downeyville this day," and what I was doing originally was, like, I would tell people what campground it would be when it's, like, March, so they're not
Mhm.
booked at all, and it'd be
Yeah.
like we'd end up everybody booked their own shit, but it was like you go, you ride all day. But then come nighttime, we got a bonfire and I would do like a Jeopardy game show and like some stuff like that. And it was just like a really good time. And I could
Yeah.
see it being more of an event, where it's like, yeah, you go up there and you ride bikes all day and then you like party and have a band at night and like have a good time and then get up in the morning, you either ride bikes again or you freaking call it a day and cut out.
Mhm.
And I feel like that there's not a whole lot of like events like that. There's like the at least the big ones and stuff like that. It's not a party, and that's what I think I like about Sedona. It's like it feels like a party, even though it shuts down early.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like a good time. Like you said, like the people that you want to ride with, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Heck yeah, it's just I was just like, when I went to that, I was really stoked. I was like, "This is rad.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
super rad event." Like,
Yeah. So we were talking earlier and you said you were supposed to have some new tires. When do you think what's it looking like for them?
so I have everything but the blue trail 275s right now, which I'm getting those in March, and then my next production is supposed to be in June, which will be another new tire and also a different color splatter tire.
So June is looking at a different tread pattern.
Oh no, that's just a different same tread pattern, different. Those would be. I mean, even if I gave them the drawing right now, I wouldn't have those until on the market till mid 2023.
Mhm.
It's
So
just
you're looking at, generally speaking, you're going to be selling the same tread pattern just in different colors or beads until a year and a half from now. Basically, would be maybe the next time that you would, or maybe 2 years from now that you would have another tread
probably
pattern.
2 years for the tread pattern, partially because probably because the one I have works really well,
Uh
and
huh.
people are like, it rolls for BC being such an aggressive tire, it rolls super fast. Like
Uh
people are
huh.
gets there's one other one that people like, it might be that one might be a little bit faster than yours, but yours grips super good.
Uh huh.
So it's kind of like people are going to do an XC tire. It's like, well, I probably will eventually, but it's kind of that's a weird world where People are super concerned with weight, and it's like, I don't really know if I want to try to play that game. I'd rather just make really good tires for normal people like ride mountain bikes.
Yeah.
So, like,
I can
yeah,
100% feel you on that, dude. Like as soon as you said XC, I'm like, what's the point?
yeah, like I want to do it eventually,
Yeah.
but it's like an XC tire is at least third, if not fourth, down the line before. But who knows? Maybe like if if I can get if I can do more, I will do more. It's just
Yeah.
like it's for right now. If I gave them a completely done tech pack today and gave them a bunch
Yeah.
of money for deposit, I wouldn't have them this year. So
I feel like you'd be better off like with your, I don't know, like I like your vibe and like, like the kind of like the way that you're building your tires. I think you'd be better off like doing something that's for like a dirt jumper or like a slope style kind of tire. You know what I mean? Like that like fun pattern and that core group of mountain biker kind of stuff. Then
you're thinking in the right line.
yeah. It just seems to make sense to me. So
Well, plus, like for me, it's like they're building bike parks by us. They're building two within 10 minutes of my house, and there's a
yeah,
rad pump track in Temecula, and they're building another one in Temecula. So that
yeah,
would make sense to
yeah.
do something like that.
Right. And
Plus,
you're
it's
gonna
like
like
they're just blown up.
you're obviously gonna design something that you're riding. You know what I mean? I just feel like that. Go ahead.
Oh, that was always when I did any design work. It was always like I like to design whatever industry I worked in. So
Yeah.
when I was snowboarding all the time, I worked in the snow industry, and then it quit snowing, and I was like, I want to ride bikes more. So then I started working more in the bike industry, and then I was like, dude, I should start a bike company of some sort. And then like I was trading T-shirt designs to Vital and Pink Bike for years, not even knowing I was doing a tire company. Just like eventually I'm going to do a company, and I'd like these designs to go towards ad credit.
Uh-huh.
So and just because it felt so rad and it felt like it was so fun. So
Yeah. So you're still doing your day job. This is kind of
yeah.
like your side gig that probably takes up way too much time, huh?
Yeah, this is my really expensive incredibly time consuming hobby.
So with that, like, do you see yourself like, are you already in the process of that other tire that you would be bringing out next, or
Not, I mean, very, very, very early stages. Not
yeah, kind of
not
just
enough
like,
to really even speak about. Like,
yeah, just thinking about things or whatever.
but it's just because and it's so frustrating because it's like I said, if I gave them the done tech pack, I wouldn't even have a sample until spring of 2023. Like I
Right.
was really hoping to have it earlier, and then like they're like, no, everything's still a mess, and it's like, oh, so
So it doesn't look like you're not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel as far as the supply chain kind of stuff goes.
I think it's getting better. And my I have a unique predicament where like a unique situation where I'm not really established yet, and I'm not established necessarily at the factory, so it's harder for me to pull time away from
Yeah.
their established brands.
Right.
But
Right.
it's getting there, right? And it seems to be. I mean, I feel kind of bad for a lot of these companies because to my benefit, this is kind of still a side gig, and
Mhm.
but there's a lot of people that don't have that luxury. That there's a
Yeah.
lot of people, there's a lot of brands out there that have multiple employees that are like, oh, we're getting 1/5 the bikes that we used to get, or and you're trying to pivot, you're trying to do different stuff, but that they already had to do that last year and the year before. So what's
Yeah.
going to happen? Like
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see, and then it'll be interesting. Like, what about all these people that bought bikes last year with their government money and with all these random things? Like, are they still
Right.
riding? Are they gonna sell their twice ridden intents for super cheap in a couple months? Or are they gonna
Yeah.
get into riding more? Or like, what's gonna happen there? What's if there's a flood of the marketplace of like high end bikes getting on? Like, I don't know. It's just
Yeah. It's so hard to like think about. Like, I mean, honestly, I was joking around about earlier, like when we did that first lockdown for 2 weeks, like everybody really thought
yeah.
like we're just gonna stay home for 2 weeks and then it's gonna be chill. We're gonna be
Hmm.
like, oh, back to the work, and here we are, shit, like 2 years later, and
Yeah.
it's still like not there. So I'm like,
Yeah, especially with this new one now, right? And it's just
Yeah.
like I know a lot of people that hadn't been sick yet that are sick right now, and
Yeah.
it's just
One of the guys at my work, he's like on the like, let's just call it the COVID response team or something like that, right?
mhm.
And he was saying that the whatever that what was the is it like there was something in the early 1900s, like some other kind of influenza, typhoid fever, I don't remember
Yeah,
what it was. Something similar to this, another epidemic, right? And he was saying that basically took like 3 years to like kind of wash out,
yeah.
so
So you're talking the early 1920, like the Spanish flu?
that's it. Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, not like in Dodge cars that killed the Dodge brothers. Like,
Yeah,
dude, that was, and it's just weird. It was a bad time when this came out. That it was at a beginning of a huge traveling season for China,
yeah,
and it was a perfect disbursement vehicle for this, and it
yeah.
just and then
Yeah, so
it's just
like so like if that took 3 years, like we're looking at least 2023 until this thing mutates enough that it's not like just dropping people, right?
yeah.
Which
Or
is like,
I mean, hopefully it mutates enough to where it's like, oh, it's a bad cold, right?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
not.
Like, and ultimately that's kind of how viruses work. I mean, I'm not a fucking doctor, right? But my understanding is they try to become more infectious and less deadly because they want to spread themselves as much as they can, but they don't want to kill the people that they infect because they want to keep living,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you remember
So,
SARS, like the first one, right? Like I was when I was in the snow industry, so we had a lot of people working in Asia, and it was like that was scary. And then from what I read and understand, is like, oh, that mutated over the summer, and then no one got it. It's like,
yeah,
well, that's really weird. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but maybe that's because it's not as worldwide and endemic as this one is.
yeah.
So,
Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows?
hmm
Like, there's so many aspects to it, but at the end of the day, we're looking at probably another year at least of this like weird zone,
hmm
and then it's going to be working its hopefully, let's cross our fingers and knock on wood or whatever, that after that, things are going to be start to come back to some kind of normal. But there are a lot of questions in the bike industry of like what you said. Like last year I remember telling people like, dude, I wouldn't buy a new bike right now, man. I'd wait 6 months because all these people that just bought them, there's gonna be a shitload of them on pink bike,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
as soon as they're allowed to go back to the gym and go to the bar and do all that other shit, they're gonna sit on that bike for another couple months and be like, man, I got $6,000 sitting in the garage, you
yeah.
know? and here we are, and that hasn't happened yet. So
Yeah, it's kinda, and then you look at the Peloton thing, right? Like, I mean, those were trading, like, trading whatever. I bought one randomly, like, right before the pandemic started for
yeah,
I got a crazy deal for some rich dude that rode it twice,
yeah,
and I rode it all the time because you couldn't do anything else, but then it was like,
right,
"Dude, I could sell this thing for $4,000 and I paid 1,500 for it 2.5
yeah,
months ago." Like,
yeah.
now they're back to being 1,200 bucks.
Yeah. My buddy yesterday was telling me he sold his boat for $30,000 more than he bought it for, and it had a ton of like hours on it.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
another one of my friends is like got a quote from one of these like car companies, these online car companies, and they're like offering him like $30,000 for his truck that has like 140,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
It's like
like yeah.
it,
The
it's
van
like
I just bought, like, they're doing the same thing. I was like, "Do you wanna sell it?" I'm like, "Dude, I just bought this thing and you're offering 5 grand more than I paid for it? Like,
yeah.
did I
Yeah.
put 30,000 miles on it?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I ordered a dirt jumper last March,
Oh, nice.
and it's finally coming in like next month or sometime this month or something like that. And it was one of those things where I'm like, there's a bike park sort of close to me that I'm a little bit amped about riding, and then there's one that's a little bit further away that's more in my wheelhouse of type of riding. It's more like a natural kind of riding.
Mhm.
And but I don't know if I'm actually going to ride it. You know what I mean? It's one of those
Yeah.
things where I'm kind of taking a gamble
They're
because
really fun, and
yeah,
they're a lot of exercise. They're
yeah,
really, really fun.
yeah. Every time I would go to the bike park, like with my chameleon,
Mhm.
I'd be like, man, this is so much fun. And like, I started my Strava once just to see, and I
Yeah.
rode like 7 miles, you
Yeah. Yeah.
know, in circles for however many hours. And I was dusted, at the end of it.
Oh yeah,
Like,
you're done.
yeah,
Yeah, my
you do like,
buddy like is Cole Swados. Like I'm really good friends with their family, but I remember when he was
yeah,
a kid and he's like, I did 20 laps. I'm like, dude, I did two and I'm dying,
right.
Like
Yeah.
so it's such gnarly exercise. It's so fun. Like
Yeah. You like do a lap and you're like, okay, stand up there, talk to whoever's standing around for 5 minutes, do a lap, stand around. And so it's like fun in that aspect. So,
yeah.
anyways, the point, I guess, of the story was I got this dirt jumper coming. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, I waited at this point, like a year for this bike.
Hmm.
Even if I get it and I don't like it at all, I 100% know I could sell it for what I bought it for.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's
I
not,
just yeah.
go ahead.
Santa just got me one and yeah, I was the same thing. Like, well, for some reason I don't ride it. I know I could sell it for, at least what I paid. And
Yeah. Yeah, because somebody else is going to have to wait a year to get the next one, the next shipment.
hmm
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So there's going to be plenty of people that are going to be like, "Yeah, I'll pay it. I don't even care."
Yeah, I saw one
So
on Pink Bike that my friend had. My friend had it, and I thought about buying it, and then I looked later that day, and it was already gone. I'm like, dude,
yeah,
like that's just it's
yeah,
because and this is in the fall, winter. It's not even
yeah,
the spring when people are thinking about riding bikes. It's still
yeah. So
it's
with
still
the
that
mold that
California
you
winter.
have right now, does that mold actually determine the tire size? Like, could you do like 2.5s or 2.6s and still
You
be
have to do
using the
new
same
mold.
mold? It's a new
No,
mold.
yeah, it's a whole new mold for every size. Any change is a new mold,
Uh huh.
which is like
So
yeah.
is the mold like a big hunk of metal and it's like they just pump it full of rubber and then wait till it, like how does it get made?
More or less, yeah. So it's like it's big strips of rubber, and then they wrap it around the bead, and then they put it in and like injects. So the mold is it's a relief cut around giant bike tire size, and then
Uh-huh.
it gets pressed in, and then like at a high temperature, and that's how it makes the tire.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty interesting. Like it's like imagine like a waffle maker, right? But it's
Uh-huh.
your bike tire thing all the way around the circle, and then
Uh-huh.
that's how the rubber fills out the spaces, but it starts as just layers of rubber, and then it
Uh-huh.
gets pressed in and it turns into a tire.
Interesting. Is
Yeah.
there anything that I know I asked you this earlier, but like why was it a tire that you chose? Like you said you just wanted to
um
be in the industry, you wanted to come up with something like why a
I
tire?
did partially because it's the barrier to entry is gnarly. Like it takes especially this even before, but now it's even longer with you're just jumping on, oh, I'm gonna make bike tires, like get in line.
Uh-huh.
But then also all the companies I knew and all the people that I was kind of friends with and the people I worked with, like nobody had tires. Like there was, so I'm a non-compete for, like Nate from Tasco. There's almost no reason for him not to help promote me because I'm not making clothes, right? And I can do the
Right.
same. I can return the favor the other way. So, or the Afton guys, TJ from Afton is like kind of the same thing where it's like I can use they call those strategic partnerships, like in
Yeah.
my accelerator. So I can use all that existing network that I already had to kind of help promote this.
Afton's
Um,
the shoe guy, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I met him at Sea Otter, and there's some people that I had cards from when I got back that I didn't like, I couldn't remember who they were. And it was like, I
yeah,
didn't want to send an email to like some guy that just like handed me his card. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
That I didn't really like. So it was like I had a handful of them, and I feel like for some reason he might have been in that pile because I really wanted to talk to him because he's got a brand new shoe company, right?
Yeah, newer. I mean, it's older than Versus, but yeah, he same thing, right? It's like a guy that I worked with him on those pads that I did, the 661 pads. He was
Uh-huh.
working at 661, and then he went to 100%, and then he started Afton. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
he has his own shoe company, and yeah,
Yeah.
kind of the same, like the
Yeah.
same similar story, but yeah.
So do you think that you're going to do any other sizes of your tire right now, or you're going to stick with the 2.4 or like,
I want to do a wider. I want to do a 2.6 eventually, and then I mean I'd even be able to do in the full plus size, like a 2.8 or something. But that's
uh
2.6 would be somewhat soon,
yeah.
relatively soon at least. The other sizes are way down the road, and then I want to do a 26, and I'll probably do a 24 too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
partially just because I want my kid to be able to ride our tires. Like he's
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
on a 24-inch in about 2 years, and then he could ride.
So yeah, so you put the order in now, and you'll
Yeah,
be
exactly.
freaking set by the time he gets there, right?
Yeah, so I talked with a couple companies about maybe OEMing tires, which basically they would help the fund with the production, and then I
Uh-huh.
could do it. I would accelerate the whole timeline for everything if I could
Uh-huh.
get them to be on board. Like that's what I said too with the distributors. If I can get a couple distributors on who want to order a few hundred tires or a couple thousand tires, it's like, oh, that makes it a lot easier to invest this money in this mold and get these going.
Yeah.
If you know you have sales as soon as you get them.
Yeah. Do you do you think, I mean, do you think a plus tire is a good thing to do right now? Like I like plus, don't get me wrong. I have a set of 2.8s that I run on my Bronson, and one of the reasons that I've been hesitant about thinking about getting the newer Bronson is that you can't run plus on it. And I really like riding those tires, but I'm feeling like the love for plus is seeping away in the industry as far as like what they're making.
It is for sure, which could be good for me as a smaller tire brand. Where if I offered something good, then those people are gonna possibly
Yeah,
come to get more of them. I think
that's a good
as
point.
yeah, it's kind of hard. Like I can make tires for the forgot like the 26-inch ones. All these companies they don't make new 26-inch tires. You get a
Right.
handful of decent ones, but if I came out with mine or when I come out with mine for 26, like people are gonna be stoked because this is a fully featured, legit, really good tire that's available in 26 or
Yeah.
down the road available in 24 for your kid.
Yeah.
Um, so you can do that, but it's still you have to figure out like how many people are going to buy it, and like, does it justify the expense? And if I, for me right now, I wouldn't jump into a 2.8 to start with because I know I
Yeah.
could do a pump track tire or do some other
Yeah.
tires. They're going to
Yeah.
sell more, but once I get to that point, then I could do,
Yeah. You know what you said about the 26 when you first said 26 a little while ago, I kind of in my head was like, I don't know why you would do that, but the point that you just made actually is really strong because there's a lot of people that are still riding 26-inch wheel bikes,
yeah.
and they definitely the pickings are very. Does Maxxis they make a couple of 26s?
I think they do. And I was listening to the podcast of the Cascade guy earlier, and they're like, a lot
Uh-huh.
of those Rampage dudes are doing 26, 27.5 mullets, like, which is
Oh,
a whole different world. Like a Rampage, that's like weird,
yeah,
superhuman, like different
right.
stuff. But there's still I think there's still a fair amount of those that would be stoked on it. So
Yeah.
we'll
I feel like there's still a lot of people that ride 26-inch wheel bikes. I
Well,
mean,
plus
like,
kid bikes. Like now
yeah,
kids are getting legit really good mountain bikes and like you're not gonna jump up to the 275 if you're whatever 4'5". You're gonna like,
right.
Mike Mark's kid just got a 26-inch YT, I think. And it's like
Yeah,
he, like you need it's a stepping stone, like for
yeah,
people and they're gonna especially kids, like there's so many kids at like Sea Otter and Sedona that came by, they're like, I want the blue tires or I want yellow tires, and they're just so
yeah,
stoked on it because they're not they're not trained or they're not worried about what their friends like, oh, that's you only buy black tires, like that's lame or whatever it is. Like they're just
yeah,
like, that thing's rad, like I want to have a rad bike and like
yeah,
bikes are
yeah,
fun, like there's kind
yeah.
of it's a lot of my mentality is like we're riding bikes, man, like should be fun.
It's a design thing. Like, I think you
Yeah.
have that that perspective. It's kind of like my buddy Richard from Sticker. It's
Yeah.
like why do we have to all ride the same? No, we don't. You just put some stickers on there and totally change the way it looks, and it looks cool. Then you're like,
His stuff
and it,
is so rad too. Like he does amazing things. It's like for my design world, I'm like, dude, his stuff is like he's crushing it with that. Like it makes it
yeah,
fully unique, awesome, super custom bike. Like just buy a sticker set from him. You know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like to get your bike painted at a decent paint place is more than likely going to cost you at least $1,000.
Yeah. Like I asked
Yeah.
Technar about it, and it's about it starts at like $1,000.
Yeah. And that's like if you just want some like basic freaking like single color, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like, and for buying some stickers, you can totally change the way your bike looks for like a couple $100.
Yeah.
Or for like $50. You can just be like, oh, I want the down tube and the forks, and that's it, or like if you want to go all out and put your shock on there or something on your rims, it's still like, I don't know, like $300. I don't know what like the full retail is. That's the downside of always getting the buddy deal.
Yeah. You don't really know. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I know it's not $1,000 and I know it's not $500, so it's like, I know there's some differences in what you pay as far as like how much design you want and blah, 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 materials and stuff like that. So that's why I don't want to like tell everybody this is exactly how much it costs. No, you hit him up and he'll get you a quote. But what I'm getting at is like, yeah, you can make your bike like super individual, and to me, I don't know. I just like that. I like mine not to look like the other, 10,000 freaking Bronsons that are running around Northern California right now.
Yeah, plus it's still our toys, like we're still like, I mean, you get on a bike, you're a kid again, and this is just your kind of really expensive, cool toy that's your own
Yeah.
thing. So if you can do a little bit, even if it's a couple $100, it's still only a couple $100, right? And you
Yeah.
can customize it, make it super rad, and it's yours even more so. And
Yeah.
then I don't know, there's still the whole weird nerd thing where like you want to dork out and be like, oh yeah, all these people were asking about my bike or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is my unique custom creation
Yeah.
that I kind of took whatever was off the shelf and made it more so,
Yeah. So you said you started riding mountain bikes in the late 90s. You're probably pretty close. How old are you?
I just turned 47.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I was thinking. We're right around the same age. I'm 44. And I mean, back when we were kids, BMX tires were like you could get all kinds of colors.
Yeah. That's
Like
that's the idea for all this is from BMX, being a great kid growing up riding BMX,
yeah. It was like, oh, dude, so and so got blue tires or red tires, or like they would mix them up. And so I don't know if this is like something you had planned for the future or not, but do you have other like kind of color design ideas for?
We did that this shirt, right? Is like we did full yellow ones, and I released them April 1st of last year, and I like we did a pink bike thing. I called it they do a roundup of all the April Fool's jokes. I call it recycled roadie jersey rubber, and I was like, I made a full thing and like said that we recycled all the Tour de France jerseys and like
Oh yeah,
washed all the drugs out of them and then put it on our tires. And
nice.
so
But I mean, you guys could do like stripes, or you could like,
you could
I don't
do a
know,
lot
put
of
a
stuff,
freaking
right?
snake
Like,
on it, or you know what I mean? There's all kinds of shit you could do.
yeah, you have to like. So if you look in the BMX world, they do a lot more of that. You can like die cut kind of general shapes and do it.
Uh-huh.
Which I'm not sure if I'll go that far. Like, we have to figure out because even with the splatter, right? Like it's I don't see necessarily doing splatter being the differentiator in 5 or 10 years because
Yeah.
then it's going to kind of already be in there. So there's some other ideas we have as far as kind of
Yeah.
other things we can do.
Uh-huh.
There's some rad stuff you can do too, even just kind of different things. A lot of it is I have to it's just the minimums. Like I can't go
Yeah.
crazy with it and make all these random things for them to do a
Right.
low minimum order. Like you have to have distributors or a solid enough customer base to
Yeah.
buy up your tires.
Yeah, I think we're just like kind of like shooting around ideas or talking, like I mean, you could change the sidewall colors and that would be rad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of that you can do for sure.
Yeah. That I feel like you're onto something. You know what I mean? Like obviously you're selling some tires. You guys you've been at it for a minute, you're I'm assuming your sales are going up every month.
Yeah, even like I mean, even this month has been really good. And it's like, only the southern part of the United States is riding bikes right now. And there's a lot of people buying and it's rad. It's cool. There's still more people like, oh, I never heard of you guys. Or like I was just at bootleg last weekend and one dude before I even unpacked the van came and bought a set of tires. Like, I wanted to check these out forever. Like, I can't believe you're here. And then but at the same time, there's people who came by later in the day, like, what's this? I never heard of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been around for almost 2 years and you've never heard of our brand, but it's
Yeah.
just getting out there and getting people to feel it. And then you have to get them to trust that you can trust the tires and you can give it a shot. And like I said, most people say they felt like their old ones they were riding, they roll faster and they hold air longer. Those are the main comments
What,
from people going from other brands.
what do you think the reason of the holding air longer is?
That's some with the factory. So they have a layer in there that It's almost like an inner tube combined with a woven mesh, a butyl
Uh-huh.
rubber impregnated mesh. So it's like it holds air in super good, which is
Hmm.
pretty rad. Like so
Yeah.
pumping you tubeless, you pump it up once a month.
Right.
Like people are like, oh yeah, I don't even bring my pump anymore because I know that it's gonna be pretty much on where it was when I left. Like you still check it all the time. And you're like, oh dude, it's the same where it's lost a half a pound in a week.
Yeah. 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 Great on, man. Well, dude, we're almost at 2 hours right now. So
That's
I
crazy.
really,
I can't believe it's been that long.
yeah. But most people say that. I can't tell you how many people on this show beforehand were like, there's no way we're gonna talk that long. And it's easy, man, when you're talking about when like you have a passion about something, right? So
Yeah.
like in your case, it's your company, or like in some cases, it's just people. We're just talking about mountain bikes. We all like mountain bikes, you know. So
Yeah.
it's super simple to talk about that stuff. Is anything that you feel like we didn't touch base on that you wanted to mention about your tires or?
Yeah, I mean the main just like the tires ride good. It's a ride our own company. We have the different sizes. We have more coming in, so a lot of people are like, oh, you have the 275s now. I wanted them before. Like they're mostly in stock now. And we're just gonna keep plugging away and keep, making good tires like that. Like I said, the vast majority of people that ride them are super stoked on them. And there's one dude that bought some at Sedona, and he's bought 3 sets since.
Yeah,
Like, dude, I sent him a T-shirt. I'm like, you've bought 4 sets of tires in 2 months.
yeah.
Like, you deserve a free T-shirt. So,
Yeah, actually, when you said that in my mind, I was like, well, Sedona was in the spring. And I was like, no, wait, it wasn't. It was in November.
yeah. So it's
That's
kind of rad.
awesome,
Like,
man.
and it's like it says people just like they're telling their friends and like check these out, and like that's what helps a lot. Is the word of mouth,
Yeah,
and that means a lot to me. Even just as like a normal bike rider design nerd, is like I still get stoked when I get when the thing pops up. You have a new review on your tires, and people are stoked on it. It's like rad. Like
yeah,
just I don't know,
yeah,
just
yeah,
trying to do it, trying to keep
100%.
going, trying to grow this and do more rad stuff, and just
Yeah. You watch YouTube like much?
yeah.
So I always ask people at the end of the show what YouTube channels they watch. It doesn't really matter if it's like basket weaving or like underwater welding or mountain bikes, or I would just like think it's interesting to hear like what kind of channels people like to watch, and sometimes it's something really interesting. So
So there's one thing I watched just like a couple days ago. It was like the history of the Cannonball Run Lamborghini Countach because
oh,
I'm kind of a
nice.
car guy too. It's really interesting, and like the dude actually shut down the Cannonball Run because one of the guys bought that car. I
Uh-huh.
won't tell you more, but it's like it's I didn't know it was this long as when I was working, but like I do some car stuff like that, but that's pretty interesting if you're into that, and it goes into the history of the Lamborghini Countach and how it came around, and
Dude, that was like the sickest car in the world when we were kids too.
they fully talk about that, how that's
Yeah,
like the car, and like
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're in the 80s, if you grew up in the 80s, that was like the dream car to have. But it's
It was
really
either
interesting,
that
like
or the Testarossa, right? The
yeah.
Ferrari, right? Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
what's
that's awesome.
weird though is that the Countach is, they said, is 50 years old this year. It came out in 1971, was at the auto
Wow.
show.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah, so
realize
that's
that.
because the Testarossa was mid 80s, but that was pretty interesting. The way they brought it to the country was like some guys bought some random ones and made modifications to make them legal, and then Lamborghini was like, oh hey, we can do that, and started importing them, and it's like it's worth it. There's some like Vin wikis or some
Yeah,
like, I don't really, I think it's one of those things where you watch one and it's like,
yeah.
I kind of was interested in the one, but I don't need to hear 1,000 of them. Or
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
what the Matt's off-road rescue, that dude pops up every once in a
Yeah,
while, like, obviously like Van Can mountain bike and all the mountain
yeah,
bike ones, like, but those are the kind of more off the side ones or design
yeah.
stuff.
I thought it was interesting that BCPOV got stuck out there and he actually accidentally got helped out by Matt's off-road.
That's crazy. That's how small of a world it is, though.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So,
like,
have you ever heard of a channel called Car Bros?
yeah, I think so.
I'll have to send you a link, but they did this like it's like a friend of a friend that runs that channel.
Yeah,
And he has this like what was that? The Fiero? Is the Fiero the one that kind of looks like an old Ferrari?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right. So he has a kit car that's built off of Fiero that's supposed to look like a Ferrari, like some Ferrari. I can't remember which one it is, right? It looks like absolute dog shit, right?
yeah, yeah.
So as a joke, they enroll this car as a Ferrari into this fucking car show down in Monterey. It's like the most prestigious car show
the
in the
Concours
world.
d'Elegance. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. So they enroll this car, and somehow they don't look at the fucking pictures that they submitted, because they submitted the pictures. It looks like shit, right? This car makes it into the show, right? Like they print a book of all the cars that are in the show, and this thing is printed in the book. He gets to the show and he's like pulling in. They did a video of it, right? So they're like, and the guy at the gate's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm here for the show." And they're like, "No, you're not." "Yeah, I am." Like, "Here's my papers." Like, oh God, it is hilarious. I'll have to send you a link. You have to see it if you're into cars.
Yeah, that's the craziest car show in the world. Like I do design work for HRE Wheels, which is like the dudes that like put Ferrari on their black card.
Yeah.
And so I get to work with pictures of those kind of cars every once in a while. It's like that is the car show. They are SEMA, I guess, but
it is like hilarious. Like and just the video is kind of long, but if you're into cars, and they did a great job with telling the story, and I highly recommend it. I'll have to put it in the show more notes for this as well, for those of you guys that are listening, and that way you guys can check it out as well, because it's freaking just hilarious to see it pan out that way. Well, Scott, once again,
I'll send you the Cannonball one too, and then my friends, like if you're into car stuff, the Throttle guys, like are friends of mine that like they're putting a Tesla motor in a 350Z, like just weird stuff that they're just random dudes that like decided, and they make crazy cars and like build the world around it. So, but it's fun, like it's cool learning different stuff and kind of different things.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with me and everybody that's been hanging out here live. And those of you guys that are listening on the podcast as well, you can go to versustires.com. So it's VERSUS tires.com. Pretty easy. Go check it out. You can see some pictures of what we've been talking about. He's got an Instagram and a Facebook and a Twitter, so you can check it all out those places as well. And while you're over there at Instagram or Facebook, give me a follow as well too. It's at BIKER B1. Just go over there. All you gotta do is push that little button that says you like it or you follow or you want to be one of those things. If you're listening on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button. If you made it this long, you've got 2 hours of free entertainment. All I'm asking you for is hitting the thumbs up button, or subscribe if you haven't been subscribed already. So that would be rad as well. I really appreciate everybody out there that's listening. That's part of my Patreon. If you guys want to help me put beer in the fridge or buy new bike parts or whatever it is that's keeping this channel going, swing by patreon.com, look up BIKER, B1KER, and help me out. That would be great. It's like, I always say this, but it's like, you go to the bar, you get a beer, and you give that dude $1 for just pouring a beer in. Here you are listening to 2 hours of good content every week, and you could throw $1 at me, or 5 or 10 or whatever you feel like. So I would appreciate any of it. I thank you all for being part of that. Those of you guys that are there, and those of you guys that are thinking about it, appreciate you for even thinking about it. So anyways, next week we'll be here again, and I'll look forward to seeing all you guys then. If you also get a chance, I almost forgot. I want you to swing by Lab Ulster and check out their hip pack. I'm telling you, if you've been thinking about using a hip pack, or your hip pack slides off your butt, or you don't want to carry a big old bladder full of water and you just want to throw a bottle or two in your hip pack, this is the one to get. I'm telling you, it's really worth it. Check it out at labulster.com. It's also in Show More as well. I want you guys to remember one thing. If you don't want to buy anything, you don't want to give anybody any money, you don't want to hit any thumbs up button, just remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. So get out and be one.